I think there's something weird or supernatural about twins, and I can't even explain it. But I remember the first time the government came to prep me for the Chapo trial. They're like, "How many languages do you speak?" And I said 3. And they're like,
English, Spanish, and twin.
Like, okay, English, Spanish, and the third one, I'm like, twin. And they're like, okay. I said, because I realized over the years that my brother and I had like a special way to communicate. And you notice it more when you're apart, because I couldn't communicate with others as well as I did with him. Because him and I shared so much together, so many of the same experiences in life and day-to-day activities that...
I mean, does it get any deeper than sharing a womb? Shit.
He understood what I was saying to him without me really saying much.
Hey, it's 50 Cent.
And I'm Charlie Webster.
I'm Shail.
This is Surviving El Chapo, the twins who brought down a drug lord. Season 2.
El Chapo's escape was so much bigger than the Flores twins.
It was labeled a national embarrassment to Mexico and the then President Enrique Peña Nieto. He and his government were already out of favor due to increasing allegations of corruption and violence.
El Chapo escaping meant that it got real between the U.S. and Mexico, especially as the U.S. had been pushing for El Chapo's extradition for exactly this reason. It was a symbol of deep corruption in Mexico.
At the same time, locals in Sinaloa were optimistic. News of El Chapo's return prompted parties and celebratory gunfire. While El Chapo had been in prison, his son Ivan Archivaldo had been running the cartel. Locals felt he was too unstable, and El Chapo's return would bring back order to the region. He was already viewed by many as a Robin Hood figure. Almost immediately, the Mexican government put out a $3.8 million reward for information, leading to El Chapo's capture.
That's a lot of money. $3.8 million in Mexico. You could have built a stronger prison he wouldn't have tunneled his way out of.
3 months later, El Chapo met with Sean Penn for that Rolling Stones interview.
Okay, Chapo, you was bogus for the Sean Penn shit. What was that lady's name? Kate Del Castro or some shit? Y'all tweaked. Y'all did yourselves dirty. You had no business doing a Rolling Stone interview with Sean Penn. What does Sean Penn have to do with, like, what happened? Did the CIA use Sean Penn as the foil to go find Chapo? Because what the fuck does Sean Penn have to do with the cartel, with Chapo, with any of that shit? You know what I'm saying? Did Kate Del Castro, or whatever her name is, meet Sean Penn and be like, you know what? I know somebody you should know. Like, that shit don't make sense to me. That's something that I will be covering. I'm going to get into that story because that story is a little deeper and dumber than it seems. Best part of that story was, when Conor McGregor did his Chapo impersonation. He was fighting somebody. He put on the shirt and went to do his Chapo impersonation. But please, that was a dumbass idea. You're on the run. You got out of a Mexican prison. You crawled out of a Mexican prison through a hole, and now you want to go do Rolling Stone magazine interviews and shit. Like, stop. I ain't laid eyes on a video of Mayo or heard the man's voice and none of that shit. If he is alive, that's a gangster-ass old man that then disappeared into the wilderness and shit. But again, it was the same thing with John Gotti. He became too popular, too seen. It wasn't just unwanted posters anymore. He was, again, just like Chapo, Rolling Stone magazine type shit. Ego. The ego is different. These guys got a different kind of ego, man. That's why they're willing to smoke somebody like El Pirata de Culiacan. Because you touch their ego, dog. They don't want no part of you touching their ego. They don't even realize they have an ego. They just know that they ain't like that and they have to respond. They have to answer for it. It's where the interviews come from. It's where these Rolling Stone articles and all this shit. But Sean Penn, come on, I Am Sam. What are you doing?
Almost immediately, the Mexican government put out a $3.8 million reward for information, leading to El Chapo's capture.
3 months later, El Chapo met with Sean Penn for that Rolling Stones interview. You know exactly the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, we know.
El Chapo's return strengthened the cartel's power. He was known as the internal fugitive. For the Flores twins, it meant even more uncertainty. Pete thought El Chapo would never be caught again.
I cannot believe he actually pulled that off. You know, and I think that.
There you go. Salutes to Oso in the chat. Kate de Castillo. Same shit. Yeah, she tweaked too. I gotta introduce you to my friend. Got her friend snatched up. Actors, don't get it twisted. You actors. You're not cartel bosses. You're not the queen of the South. You know what I'm saying? You're not. You're an actor. You playing a part.
That alone probably kept the cartel like in situation of power. You know, I think that escape was bigger than just him escaping for the cartel. When it should have been on its way out, it had this, you know, a little more force to it.
Yeah, he showed them some power.
You tend to feel like that's the team you want to be with when they get away with things like that.
Did it make you question what team you were on in that moment?
Nah, I'm gonna tell you something. I was impressed. I mean, but no, he's on the losing side. Everyone who's in that life is on the losing side. I don't care who you are. I don't care how many people you have with you. It's only a matter of time.
That's it. I believe that. It's just a matter of time. You know, I argued before, you know, if there are old drug dealers, we don't see them because they're quiet. And that's what helped them get old. You know what I'm saying? But eventually, the reaper comes for everybody that's enticing them. You know what I'm saying? And if you're enticing him in the game, he's going to come for you eventually. The reaper, the badge.
Were you concerned by him escaping and the continuous power of the cartel, that it made it more dangerous for you and your family? Were they more likely to come after you then?
Yeah, of course, that they're still like real strong. But then sometimes I would think that would be scary if you thought they were gone. If you thought they didn't exist, I think it would be worse. Because sometimes
didn't exist in what sense?
Like if you thought they lost their power and they just were completely disappeared. I think that's what happened like in Colombia. Like, okay, they didn't have Pablo Escobar anymore, but that doesn't mean that there weren't people as powerful as him or with that kind of, you know, control and power, like in place, you know?
There's always going to be somebody else. And that's the problem with the cartel in Mexico. That it's a foregone conclusion that if you take out the top guy, it's going to be 20 more of those guys lined up to take that spot. Not necessarily in no order. This is not a kingdom where the king's son. No, if the king's son ain't strong enough, he get run down by the next animal that wants that seat. So there's always going to be somebody in power.
Or maybe it was a lot more people, but they were still there. And I think when they're like hiding in the shadows, it's kind of scary for me, you know? Like, to think that that sense of security, false sense of security, you think like, okay, they're gone. For me, I'm saying personally, like, they're not gone. I know they're not gone. I know they're there. At that point, there's one thing I knew for sure, that the Mexican government was going to be like, America, USA, do whatever you want to catch this guy. Like, we're tired of him. And from a business perspective, me being in the drug business and me still have been down there at that time, I would have been like, yeah, let's set him up because he's causing too much trouble. Like this whole drug business doesn't revolve around one person. It's not all about Chapo or all about Maya. It's a big, community of people that it takes to keep this going. And he would be a person that was just creating too many problems.
You get the impression, right, that the way it's publicized is if Chapo is the god and that controls everything.
I mean, he's a major figure, but there's a lot of people in this business.
Yeah.
And like he said, the idea of Mexico or cartel people in Mexico just saying, you know what, turn him over to the U.S. government already. He's causing more problems than he's doing good. Just goes to show you even more that turning each other in, we all know that part of the game is living and dying. You know what I'm saying? There's a chance that the Reaper come for you while you're playing the game. But with them, it ain't that the cops just might pull up on you and pop you because you made a mistake. Nah, it's with them is they'll turn you in. They'll turn you over. They weaponize it. It's part of the game. I don't get it, but I guess it works for them or it doesn't.
But like another thing where I feel like my brother and I, like knowing him in a different level, not just like, a more personal level, that I seen him being like, I seen his flaws, I seen things that I disagree with, things I didn't like, and like to imagine, again, that people died. Every time they were chasing him around, he left, ran away, and people were left there to fight for him and die, And then the thing, like, how many people, during those 6 months he was free, how many people probably lost their lives protecting him while he's evading law enforcement? Then he gets caught.
He got caught over ego. Again, same thing I felt about the mistakes that the Twins were making in season 1, about showing everybody the money and being too big, or the three Bs and this and that. Chapo did the same shit. He did the same shit. Oh, Champagne, I like Champagne. Yeah, we go watch Champagne. All right, I am Sam. And then what happened? Kate del Castillo and Champagne. That was the linchpin that fell out that got you popped. Ego. Too much ego.
On January the 8th, 2016, tipped off in part after a large order of tacos, Mexican naval marines surrounded a house in Los Michos on the coast of Sinaloa.
Tacos sold them out.
They'd been scoping out the house for a while. Phone interceptions suggested someone high up in the cartel was coming. In the early hours of the morning, a huge gunfight broke out as the Marines entered the house.
We're getting a whole shootout, sound effect.
Arriba.
Ándale.
Suban. Un buen fight.
5 of El Chapo's men were killed in the gunfight, as well as 1 Marine. When they finally entered the house, El Chapo had once again vanished. He had 2 tunnels built into the house. One a decoy tunnel under the fridge, designed to confuse officials, the other behind a mirror. This was the one he fled through. It was almost the same length as the tunnel he escaped from prison in. The tunnel behind the mirror led to a street.
Because then he escaped through a bathtub tunnel once too. Oh, shout out 03 North. That's the actual sound effects. Have you seen the video? I have not seen the video.
The tunnel behind the mirror led to a street right near a Walmart. El Chapo was with his most ruthless assassin, Ivan Cholo, or simply El Cholo. The 2 of them stole a taxi at gunpoint and sped away. The cab driver flagged down another cabbie to radio that he'd been carjacked. The Mexican authorities were listening. El Chapo and El Cholo decided to ditch the car to avoid capture. At the next traffic light, they approached a red Ford Focus. Inside, an elderly woman, her daughter, and 5-year-old grandson. El Cholo pulled out his weapon and forced them out of the car, but not before giving the woman her purse. He and Chapo got in, but by that time, the authorities had caught up. In a literal Mexican standoff, El Chapo told the police that they would all die. The cartel was readying a small army of 40 assassins to rescue him. The police took El Chapo to a local motel, the Hotel Deux, to wait for backup. The Hotel Deux is not just any old motel. It's a sex motel, which could be rented at the cost of 300 pesos, $16 for 6 hours.
Hey, they took Chapo to party, took him to the hot spot.
The cost of 300 pesos, $16.
300 pesos, you catch something off the sheets in that hotel right there.
For 6 hours. There's a famous photo online that you can look at of a very filthy El Chapo sitting handcuffed on beige satin sheets in room 51. El Chapo desperately tried to bribe the police to let him go, but it was too late. Backup arrived and he was taken by helicopter to Mexico City. President Nieto tweeted, "Mission accomplished. We got him."
Got him.
He gets rearrested January the 8th or whatever. And then, like, within a week, the government's at my prison facility and I'm signing the extradition papers for Chapo Guzman.
Shit.
That was a real, like shocking, moment to be signing those papers. We hear about Al Capone, and you have those bad guys, Al Capone, Pablo Escobar, and Chapo Guzman. It was like that moment of, in history that I never thought I would be a part of.
The call that Pete recorded of El Chapo was the key piece of evidence that the US government was using to convict El Chapo, so Pete had to be the one to sign the extradition papers.
For certain people in that case, like Chapo Guzman, once they're arrested, they put a package together. The American government would formally request extradition of a person, and Office of External Affairs will handle most of that process. Mm-hmm. So you submit certain papers, like evidence that they have, and sometimes they want to know. They want to know something. They want to ask you a couple questions about, your testimony. Right. Just to do their due diligence, and before they extradite someone that they have sufficient evidence.
Yeah, they want to make sure that you're gonna nail him to the wall. They want to make sure that he don't get through no more tunnels, no loopholes, no nothing. He don't come off that cross. He don't come off that wall. They want to make sure they're gonna nail him to the wall. They don't want to extradite somebody over here and then have these dudes turn around and say, "Nah, this didn't happen," or "No, this wasn't how I said it," and "No, y'all wrote that down wrong," and "No, they're there to confirm that it's going down."
For the US to seek the extradition of someone from abroad, they have to put in a formal request supported by sufficient and certified evidence that a crime has been committed.
So when did you find out that you've got to stand up and testify against him?
He went to trial in November of 2018. It was just right before that, exactly a year to the date, like November 2017. They came to see me and just as a kind of a pre-interview of how I felt and about testifying, and was I going to be able to be a good witness.
So did they come to see you as in the prison, and then you then, how does it work?
Yeah, they come, so my attorney was present. The Chicago office was present, the prosecutor's agents, and here comes the team, the New York team. There's 8 of them. 8 prosecutors.
Where is it? In a special room, or?
Yeah, it's actually our visiting room. It's our visiting room. They come in and you walk into the room, there's all these people there, and you're just it's a little awkward. And they introduce themselves and kind of tell you what they're there for. I just want to go over some of the things about my case, and they ask you questions, random questions. I told you, I'll never forget that she asked me, "So how many languages do you speak?" I said, "I'm fluent in English, Spanish, and twin." The prosecutor looked at me "What do you mean?" I'm "Oh, my brother and I, we have a special way to communicate with each other."
That was US Attorney Andrea Goldberg asking Pete what languages he speaks: English, Spanish, and twin. If you remember back in episode 4, Jay talked about having to relearn how to communicate after being separated for the first time from his identical twin brother Pete. Twin talk is actually not uncommon. It's called cryptophasia, a form of autonomous language, and happens in up to 40% of all twins. While the siblings can understand each other just fine, No one else will have any idea what they're talking about. In the prison visiting room, Pete was surrounded by the team of attorneys the government had assembled for the El Chapo case. Pete worked closely with Assistant US Attorneys Andrew Goldberg and Adam Fels, both known and celebrated for taking down some of the world's most renowned drug lords and terrorists, including Colombian kingpins Juan Carlos Ramirez and El Loco.
I was fortunate, to have been chosen to work with Adam Fels. Yes, all my respect, he was like super intelligent, super, made me feel comfortable, patient with me. He understood my situation. And he was like the prosecutor that was in charge of my prepping me, and he was gonna be the one questioning me. And talented people, you could tell just from talking to them that they sent the best.
Pete was the one on the recording of the phone call with Chapo, so he was the only one who would need to testify. He spent a year prepping for the trial, primarily with Adam Fels. Each month, the team would stop by and go over the details of the case and what Pete was going to say. They did mock trials and did as much as they could to prepare Pete for potential cross-examination from El Chapo's attorneys. Finally, as Christmas of 2018 approached, Pete had to make his way across the country to El Chapo's trial in New York.
The last time I seen the prosecutors in my prison, they were like, okay, next time I'll see you will be, New York. That's nerve-wracking to feel that. The reality of it begins to kind of set in, and I'm constantly anxious. It brought so much stress to me, and it shouldn't have, but it did.
Why shouldn't it have?
I can't sleep. I can't think. I'm not hungry. I'm not. The reality of it begins to kind of set in, and I'm constantly anxious. It brought so much stress to me, and
why wouldn't it bring stress to you? You're going to testify against the biggest cartel leader that we've known in the last, however long. I'd expect some anxiety, especially when it got real. All these things that worked up to this moment, all these things that worked up to this point, all this time of getting kidnapped and returned and rescued and the beef between the two cartels and having to make the choice and then having to get the phone call, then having to get out of there, having to get your family out of there. All of these things led to this. You should be anxious. You should be anxious.
Shouldn't have, but it did. I can't sleep. I can't think. I'm not hungry. I'm not, I'm praying about it every day.
What do you think drove that overwhelming feeling? Do you think it was the anticipation, the anxiety, the fear,
everything? I think everything, all balled up into one, everything, those feelings, and of course, dealing with my own emotions, thinking about even my dad, this is the biggest form of snitching you could do,
Did his words come in your head?
Of course it did, A lot of people cooperate, and they never see a courtroom, and I thought that was going to be the case. And it was so nerve-wracking. I remember them finally kind of telling me, get ready that morning. It's 7 a.m, get ready.
Who told you this? Did they come and knock on you?
The staff comes and tells you, get ready. And the phones are off, and they do, certain things for security. So they don't come till 9:30. So those hours were
Oh God, I can imagine it was torture. What were you doing, pacing?
Yeah, pacing, just, and they come with their bulletproof SUVs and they shackle you and they put you in the back of a armored vehicle with the windows covered. And they always pick a nearby airfield so you're not on the road for a long period of time. And then they pull you up to the private jet, and there's more agents there waiting for you, marshal agents that are in charge of your protection. And we all cram up into this little jet, and it was the most uncomfortable 5.5 hours flight. Sitting there unable like to stretch my feet or anything, and being sick to my stomach, you know, like nervous, just thinking about what's to come, thinking about my family, like so many emotions.
Were you like shoulder to shoulder with the...
Yeah, with it, and then, you know, one in front of me, his feet are stretched out in front of me. I can't even, you know, sit comfortable, and I'm shackled, so it makes it a lot more uncomfortable. They usually give you like, you know, some street clothes like to travel, because, you know, the pilot doesn't know who you are. You know, no one knows who you are, and I'm just like in some regular sweats. It's this long ride, and we fly into somewhere like Connecticut or something, and then we have a long ride in traffic, and I'm shackled by this time. Like, I'm already tired of sitting, and my back hurts, and I'm anxious, and I'm worried, and I'm sick to my stomach, and I haven't ate.
Showtime.
And they're playing like this awful classic music. I can't look out the window. You know, and it's felt like torture. Like, I should have got time off just for sitting in that back of that truck. I felt like, I told him, I said, I need to tell you guys something. I said, the ride I took with the kidnappers was better than this.
Damn.
They just laughed at me. It was just, you know, I think the stress was already kind of built up.
How many do you reckon were in that convoy?
In that convoy, probably 12 at least, marshals.
Damn.
And then you get there, I'm like, where are they going to put me? And then, you know, every prisoner understands what it is to be transferred from prison to prison into another unit or whatever. You're like, you're going straight to the hole. You know, so on top of that, you're going straight to the hole. And
is that what happened every time then? You got transferred anywhere?
Yeah, most of the time, yeah. So
there are a few different reasons you might end up in solitary confinement, or as Pete refers to it as the shoe or the hole.
I would say they don't want you talking to nobody. They don't want you out there letting people know what happened or where it happened or how it happened or telling any of the information that he's telling them right now about the plane, about the car, the 12 guys in the convoy. I'd assume they don't want none of that.
Disciplinary reasons is just one of them. Often prisoners are temporarily put in solitary confinement for administrative reasons, for protection, or while being transferred. That's why Pete ended up in solitary a lot. Pete was taken to MCC New York, the same prison Jay was taken to when the twins were first separated because of the billboards. If you remember, he described it as the worst place and told us that prisoners prepared the food, adding a couple of dead roaches for flavour. It's where Jeffrey Epstein was held, and as Pete arrived...
It's where Jeffrey Epstein miraculously did himself in, you know, which I don't believe.
It also happened to be where El Chapo was being held.
So we go and they pull in, and I'm not sure where I'm at, but they're walking down these long hallways, and it's dirty and ugly, and they come into like the receiving area of the MCC. I remember the marshal came up to the glass window of MCC New York here, and he like bangs on the window. They have like a sliding bulletproof glass door, and it's like almost like a drive-through, kind of like, hey, can I help you? And then there's a woman there, a short, like Latin, like woman, Puerto Rican or something. And she curses his ass out, like, what the fuck do you want? What the fuck? Give me your ID. Like, talk something like that. I'm like, I'm in New York. That's for sure. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in New York, and they pull you in, and you get that, you know, the MCC uniform.
What's the MCC uniform?
It's just like blue garb, like blue pants, blue shirt. And there's a box with like prison clothes. You know, like when you go out, they'll put your stuff in a box, and you gotta get fresh clothes in, fresh clothes, you know, fresh clothes to leave out. And the clothes you come in, you can't take with you. They'll give you the clothes you left behind. You know, for security reasons, they don't want you to, you know, switch clothes or whatever. And they got like a cubicles, like
locker, a cubicle.
Like,
bruh, I don't understand, and I get it. They wanted to stretch this story out into a season 2. They wanted to have these guys sit down and tell more story. Mind you, I don't know how many sessions they sat down to tell these stories for this particular podcast. But these last 3 podcasts just been like, yo, so they had a bathroom, and the bathroom was off to the left. And if you went down to the right, there was an office over there, and there was this lady that was sitting there. She just looked out of place. And then, if you walk down this other hallway, you get to this slide, this razor blade slide. And if you slide your ass down there, you land in an alcohol river. And it's like, yo, what are you people talking about? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like they're stretching out these episodes. They could have made them a lot shorter. We don't need to hear about the cubicles. We don't need to hear about, okay, cool, the lady was from New York. She said this, that, the other. And I don't blame the twins. I don't even blame, I don't even know that I blame Charlie, the interviewer for it. I blame the production itself that y'all just dragging this out. Just dragging it out.
Like open just open little square shelving, kind of like that. And
kind of square shelves against a wall.
Yeah. I'm like, what floor Chapo on? They're like, that's his clothes right there.
Damn.
And I was like, that felt weird to see his clothes, because they put mine right next to his, I was like, we're probably the same size.
Oh my God, that must have felt so strange.
That was weird, to know, man, we're in the same building. That's weird.
Did it feel kind of more real when you, were they his clothes?
Yeah, of course it did. I feel like not only they're his clothes, that means that he's right in the same building with me.
Turn around, he's behind you.
It brings back that little, anxiety a little bit. It's such a, intense feeling that overcomes you, that you feel over and over and over. They walk me down, they move me through the building, and I kind of get the feeling like I'm going to their special unit in MCC, the Wittig unit, and that at least was a little bit better than the shoe. And there's a couple of people that I already knew that I was in another prison with before, and a couple of people that knew my brother. It makes it less kind of awkward, and they put you in a cell, and they put me with someone I was familiar with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so someone I knew.
What, from prison?
Yeah, he was a terrorist. And he was accused of terrorism, and he was going to get sentenced.
Turns out, for the first time, Pete didn't end up in solitary as part of his transfer. Instead, he ended up cellmates with a terrorist. Abdul Rahman al-Barnasawi pled guilty to planning a major terrorist attack on New York City. He said he aspired to create the next 9/11 by bombing Times Square, the New York City subway system, and shooting people at concerts. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison the day Pete went to testify against El Chapo.
40 years.
That Friday morning, I have a legal visit at MCC, and my attorney's there, and the prosecutors are there. And we're kind of going through everything again. I hear them talking, and that was the last time I was gonna get to see my attorney, because they're gonna move me to their safe house where I was gonna continue the debriefing, and the prep. Just very stressful. That Saturday they come and they get me ready, and the marshals take me to the safe house where I'm meeting the prosecutors and the agents, and we're doing the prepping, going over stuff. And I remember when one of those moments we touched, a lot of them little moments that really that hurt to talk about. Stuff about my dad, stuff about my brother. And
were they asking you those things?
Yeah, they're like, look, man, this conversation is gonna come up.
About your dad?
Yeah, they might come up. We just got to walk you through it because they're gonna come up. If I was them, I could use this,
Yeah, so they were trying to cover every single thing that might come up.
Mm-hmm.
And try and make sure you prepared for it all.
And they were good at that. I like to think that Chapo had great lawyers, but I think the government had better ones. I remember like that Sunday, it was like Pete, the next time I see you, it's gonna be in the courtroom. And I was like, no way. Like, I can't do this. Like, this ain't for me. Like, I can't do this. I don't think I can help you. And then we're like, you got it, man. You're gonna be good. Just go in and just tell the truth and you're gonna be fine. And the things you did. And they're embarrassing to me though, you know? They are. I didn't sleep Sunday night. It was rough. It was rough, and I thought I was gonna be able to like wear some simple clothes. You don't get to do that. You're just wearing your regular prison clothes. And whatever they give you, that's what you're wearing.
To court?
Yeah. You go in there with some prison cards that got like rips in them. And that's what I wore. Whatever they give you. You know, and I'm sick, like really sick, like mentally, like just not feeling like myself. You know, it sucks to be in a situation like that. I remember them coming to get me, and I was so like stressed out, man. My knees felt weak.
And what did your body feel like?
Weak and tense and not healthy, like.
He just told you his knees was weak.
I remember feeling like that when I first got kidnapped, like where my knees got weak and I wanted to run. I don't know where to run but I wanted to run somewhere, and it just felt like that. Upset stomach, like just. And they come get me, and they're taking me back out the way I came in. And like there's the box where Chapo's clothes.
Chapo's clothes again?
Again, I see it. I know he's gonna be transported too.
They're gonna throw you on the back seat together, cuffed, and let y'all scrap it out. Crazy. Yeah, man, they dragging ass. Let's get to it though. We're gonna get to this courtroom. I'm hoping we get to the courtroom this episode, that they don't be like, so then we got to the courtroom, and we got to the court, to the building, and we walked up the stairs, and we went through the door, and we made a left, we made a right, we saw an old lady with a dog. Like, enough. Get me in the courtroom. Get Chapo in the courtroom. Let's get it popping.
I remember going up to Brooklyn courthouse, and they had tons of marshals that day. It's Monday morning. Tons of marshals, like everywhere you look. It's cold out too. I don't have a jacket. I'm cold. You know?
So you're just in your prison ghetto?
Yeah, and it's cold in New York in December. You know, I'm probably cold on my own already because I'm stressed out and my nerves are kicking in. And they take me up to like the 4th floor. We're going like up the back stairs, and I remember aluminum.
Yo,
like, when you're looking at the courthouse,
we done got to the 4th floor up the back stairs. I was right.
And they take me to like where they have jury rooms. Really nice leather chairs.
Leather chairs in the jury room.
And they sit you down, and
then they stand
you and your
up.
12 agents, they're there to protect you. On the way before we left the prison, though, they grabbed me a sack lunch. And they gave it to me, like, here, you're hungry. 4 pieces of bread and 2 pieces of cheese. And the fruit, the milk. Sitting there, maybe hours went by, like, waiting. I remember around 11:30. Here comes, the prosecutors, and they're like,
bruh, I'm ratting out the biggest drug dealer in the world. You gonna give me more than 4 pieces of bread and 2 slices of cheese, goddammit. You know what I'm saying? Like, the kids on First 48, they get a Baconator from Wendy's. You know what I'm saying? A large pop, some fries. They get something. You're gonna give this guy 4 pieces of bread and some cheese? Y'all bogus as shit. Y'all bogus.
Sitting there, maybe hours went by, like, waiting. I remember around 11:30. Here comes, the prosecutors, and they're like, we're gonna bring you in. You ready?
You ready? We ready.
No, I'm not ready.
Oh, shit.
No way, I'm not ready. I don't want to. You're gonna be fine, okay, man? Just don't worry. I remember seeing Adam Fells and them, and he just looked like different. Like,
yeah, he was in a panic too.
You know, a shower does you good, I wanted to tell him, because he just looked like a different person,
What, like fresher and smarter?
Yeah.
Oh,
they were
shit.
calling him the candidate. He had that kind of demeanor where I could see him being a politician. I'm admiring his nice suit too.
Oh yeah, you want to be
He's
a
like,
part of his
we're gonna come
campaign,
get you
I'm
now.
sure.
We're gonna come get you now. Okay, you're gonna be fine. Okay? I'll see you in a bit. Oh man, did I just feel so sick after that? I was just, thinking about it, I was just sitting there, on that leather recliner, just rocking back and forth, standing up and walking. And the marshal's insensitive. Like, sit down, you're making me nervous. Like, you're nervous? Like, really? And a while later, they're like, okay, come on, let's go. You ready? All right, guys, let's go. So then everyone gets up, like, let's go. We're going out to the court. They go and they close this, make sure nobody's coming out, any elevators or doors. And here we go back up the staircase. We're going up.
Now they're going to back up the staircase. They're going to make a left. They're going to make another right-hand turn. They're going to touch the leather chair. They're going to get the fuck out.
6 floors, I believe, like to the 10th floor where the court was happening. And we're on the way up, and we make it to, like, floor number 8. Or 7. No, go back.
Go back.
Yeah, go back.
Make another left.
Everyone go back. Yeah, they said to wait. They had to wait. And here I go back, sitting in the court in that jury room again. I pissed 1,000 times, I think. Just nonstop going to the bathroom.
He was so nervous.
In my mind, I'm going just to prayers.
What were you saying to yourself?
Just praying, like just talking to God on my own, just asking him to be with me. And Phil comes back, he's like, look, we got a little backed up, but we're working on it. We're going to make sure we're trying to get you in there, okay? He goes. Like an hour and a half goes by. It's like near 4 o'clock. I've been sitting in this room stressed out since 9 in the morning. Another hour goes by, nothing. Like 5:30 or something.
You ain't the
6
star of
o'clock
the
almost.
show.
And he comes back and says, Pete, look, man, I'm sorry. We're not. The court adjourned till tomorrow.
Damn. Recess.
I was like, what? I just sat here and just tortured myself all day. And here we go again, back to the prison for that drive back to the MCC.
Y'all tortured us all day, too.
What was that night like?
Bastard.
I couldn't handle that no more. So what I did is they give you like allergy medication and you take one and it makes you like sleepy. And I prayed and like I slept. I woke up feeling a lot better that Tuesday. Not ready to do it, but better.
Yeah, you done got all the stress
we
out.
Go through the same process again. Get my bag lunch, get my torn prison guards, and we go back. And I sit there again in the same room, just waiting, anxious again. Like, but then I'm thinking, like, this time it's for real. And hours go by again. I don't know, maybe 11 o'clock or so, they come and they're like, okay, let's go. It's time. And here we go again. Same routine. Go close the door, we're moving out there,
Make it left, make it right.
And they stop again. Like, no, go back. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you're driving me bananas. Like, go back.
Oh my God.
I
What was that
just
like?
Like, what the hell are they doing? I would say it's like around 1 o'clock or so when they come again.
Come on.
What did
go
you
left,
feel
go
like
right.
at that point?
I felt just sick. Like, I felt like just not myself. Like, never. I'm like, I've been living with this anxiety since I flew into this place, and it's been uncomfortable and kind of horrific to be in those moments. But you gotta live through it for you to understand what I'm saying. If I could explain, like, maybe like receiving your master's or your PhD or a college degree and walking on stage and feeling so good, with the exact opposite is what I kind of could feel like. And here we go again. This and that clock me. The last time I remember feeling like are we really going? But as we're going up the stairs, it's bright, it's sunny out, super sunny that day. It's cold still, but it's super sunny. The hallway, the staircase is cold. I'm freezing, it's freezing. And this time I make it past the 9th floor. And I'm like, oh shit. This is real.
Finally made it to the 9th floor.
Oh, I could feel my breathing getting a little bit short and deeper, and they open the door and the path towards the courtroom is narrow, kind of narrow. And it's so clean, it's white and bright, the way you think about you open your eyes and you're seeing heaven, that's how bright it is, because the whole floor is surrounded by windows and the windows are open, no shades, and the sun is shining that day.
And the windows are 14 by 11, 15 by... come on, man. What the fuck are we doing?
And there's marshals lined up all around all down the hallway. They're just standing there. I remember walking on the path and they're kind of walking me kind of fast. And you're just kind of just walking. I have no cuffs on. I'm just, walking through those...
Walking.
And then I could see the courtroom door, to the left. And I remember it feeling horrible. Taking that first step into the courtroom and looking, but not really looking, And they kind of guide me right into the witness seat, which is off to the left like that. And they just sit down and I kind of sit down that chair, and I haven't even really looked up to get a glimpse of the courtroom yet. But I know there's tons of people in the courtroom still. And I remember the marshal leaned over and he whispered to me, just remember, just remember, he ain't shit here. He can't do nothing here.
Not there.
And then I sit down and I look up and it's just people, just everywhere, just walking around. I could see the benches where people would sit to view the case. I could see them. And I could see the cameras everywhere. And I hear them talking something about the overflow area. Now I'm aware that there's more people in the viewing it from outside the courtroom. And I could see different people, and right away I could see a woman off the background, and she looking, because it's far. It feels like it's a block away.
God
from
damn.
the seat to the door. To their main entrance, it seems a long, in a way. And I could see her, and then she grabs her binoculars. I'm like, what the fuck? I see, someone in a suit kind of looking at me, and he's walking towards me, and I could see him, and he's smiling. He comes towards me, he just gives me a thumbs up, and I see it's my brother's attorney. And I know what he's saying just because I've dealt with it. I've dealt with people so much in that situation. I could see him telling me you look just like your brother. From his demeanor, you look just like your brother. Because I never met him personally, but And he gives me a thumbs up, and he's representing Chapo.
Jay's attorney, Jeffrey Lippman, had previously defended, wait for it, John Gotti Jr., the son of the John Gotti who Sammy the Bull cooperated against. Yes, the same Sammy the Bull who was Pete's cellmate. Of course, Sammy the Bull's cooperation against John Gotti was what led to Jay's epiphany that he too could cooperate. Jeffrey Lippman is a top defense lawyer, and after working for John Gotti Jr. and Jay Flores, he ended up defending El Chapo.
How did you make that make you feel, the fact that your brother's attorney ended up representing El Chapo, that yours?
That's crazy. When I heard about that they had the same lawyer, that Chapo and Jay had the same lawyer, that's crazy. And here's the thing, that's a conflict of interest, but from what I understand, Jay signed off on that conflict of interest, signed off on allowing his lawyer to represent Chapo.
representing El Chapo that you're stood up against? Were you worried that he could use stuff that he knew about you against you? Seems strange, right? That he could represent Jay and then he can go and represent the person that you cooperated against. It just seems a bit weird.
I could say that. I don't think that for Mr. Lickman that he didn't get to be a successful lawyer by doing stuff like that. I don't think that even Chapo would be worth him doing it. I think his reputation is more important, you know? Because if I can't trust him, no one can trust him, you know? I think that he has to be, there's got to be some form of professionalism in that world. And at the same time, everything he knows, my prosecutors know. Because they acted as attorneys for my brother and I as well. But still, it is a little weird because he knows, like, he knows my wife, he knows.
It's a whole clusterfuck.
He gives me a thumbs up, and then I see Andrea Goldberg. And everyone's like dressed to the nines. Like, I don't even recognize them. Everyone looks different to me, like in their best clothes. And I'm looking around. I'm nervous. I'm like, I can't find my comfortable spot. I'm cold, and my mouth is so dry. I'm drinking like they have like small waters, like right off to within my reach. I'm like just drinking the water. They're not helping me. And the marshal, like, you want a breath mint or something? You want? Like, he see it, like, I said, my mouth's so dry. And just nothing was helping me. My mouth was, I've never been experienced that kind of, like, dry mouth in my life. And I'm just like, yo, what's gonna happen? I could see, like, the defense table off to the left, and the courtroom's nothing like you see on TV. The courtroom's set up a little different where
Don't
you
tell
do
us.
have the aisles with the benches for the
God damn it.
audience or the people, right?
Don't tell us.
Like
Don't tell us what the courtroom's set up like. We
left,
know.
the
Let me tell you
nothing
something, man. We know this courthouse in and out. We know the program, how they get there, how they don't get there. The logistics of the whole thing, we got that shit as down packed as the twins had the logistics of running drugs across borders, boy. We got it all figured out.
You see on TV, the courtroom's set up a little different where you do have the aisles with the benches for the audience or the people, right? And the little door, but there's just two beautiful long tables, like a couple long tables, like in the front, and then behind it, another long tables, and one of them's for the defense table, and the other one's the government's tables. Beautiful leather chairs, and and beautiful wood everywhere. And I could see like the judge's seat, and I have to kind of like look up a little bit. And the court reporter's like sitting right in front of me. And slowly, I see the people like coming into the courtroom. More the prosecutors, more. I see my prosecutor, and he just waves at me from far away. And he seems distant, this is such a big courtroom, and the people are starting, piling in, and I'm like, at this point, like, my nerves are the worst they've ever been. And the people are filing in, and here comes the jurors. And they walk in, and right away, as soon as they walk in, they're looking at the witness seat. And they're all staring like that, and they don't stop staring at you. And they're not that far away from me, but they just wouldn't stop staring at you. They're just staring at you, like, up and down. Now I'm looking at them like, hey, that's one of the worst things. Like, they're looking at you like you're a zoo animal. And there's a lot of them. I'm thinking, I thought it was 12. There's like 20 of them, it seems. I guess you got the backup jurors or whatever. And I could see like the defense table starting to get a little more crowded, like people are coming in. And I see other people with binoculars in the back, and I could see that they're sketch artists too. Like they're drawing. I could see them sketching out, and as I'm sitting there, like nervous for like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it felt like forever. You know, I could like sit back on the table. I could kind of look. I can lean forward. And I could like see around the judges, kind of like podium, kind of whatever you call it. I could see that there's a door right opposite of my door, and I see them kind of open it and close it, and then I look and I see that there's marshals there, and I'm like, yeah. And then I look and I see them open the door. I see that they're letting Chapo in.
They dragged our ass through that whole courtroom just to open the door and tell us there's Chapo. We made it to the end of the tour, all right? How did you guys enjoy the tour of the New York courthouse where Peter Flores had to testify against El Chapo Guzman? It was a beautiful courtroom, beautiful stairwells and windows and leather seats and long, beautiful tables. It was an amazing place. There were so many marshals, marshal after marshal after marshal after marshal. They were everywhere. There were doors, there were binoculars, there were people, there were Chapos, there was, whoo, shit. Listen, again, I don't blame the twins are there to tell their story. They're going to tell their story. It's up to editors and production to keep the show entertaining. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like these last 3, 4, maybe this whole season so far, they just been dragging ass and dragging it out. You know, they talked up the twin telepathy, the twin talk, the twin language a lot, but they didn't give us any examples of it. Like, it had nothing to do with this episode. Why? Because they're just stitching shit together. If you ask me, I would have made this one long, you know, from season 1 all the way to the end, one long season rather than dragging it out. But we're here. We're already invested. I hope that y'all stick with me the rest of the way, because I will be here the rest of the way. But it's my place to you know, to put my judgment or my opinion on what it is. And my opinion is that they're dragging ass, just telling us about nothing to fill space that they didn't have. If that's the case, make season 2 6 strong, good-ass episodes rather than giving us 12 or 8 mediocre ones and then 4 good ones at the end. You know what I'm saying? From my understanding, they're in the courtroom. The only thing he could describe to us next week is the witness chair, because he's going to be sitting in it doing what he got to do. To me, it just felt like a tour of the courthouse, a tour of the process of testifying against the, you know, somebody as big as Chapo. But we are at the mercy of what they give us, so it is what it is. I tell you what though, if this is in podcast form, but if you look at this in the form of a long running, you know, 4, 5, 6 season TV show, it's a hell of a TV show. Testifying against El Chapo, episode 7. Last week we got basically a tour from Peter of the courthouse and the scenario in which one goes to testify against the biggest drug lord the United States had ever captured. But they pretty much dragged out the episode. They've been dragging out the episodes. Hopefully today we get some of the good stuff, some of the testimony, and they step it up a notch, because it's been a couple of filler episodes this season, much more than in season 1. I get it, but I don't get it at the same time. Like, you know, give me less episodes if you're gonna give me weaker ones. You know what I mean? So, episode 7, testifying against El Chapo. Pete takes the witness stand to lay out the case against El Chapo. He explains to the jury the details of the recorded call and his relationship with El Chapo before being turned over to the drug lord's defense team for questioning. All right, here we go.
I'm not no Mexican, you know, or a foreign monster. I'm your own monster.
It's America's
Born
monster.
and raised in Chicago. And it's easy to blame people from other countries. I'm here, I'm American citizen. In order for this drug trafficking to exist, it takes complicity in all levels, every aspect of life. Immigrants, you know, our own people here, you know, contribute. Even the agents getting in on it, you know. But I think that certain news media and everyone likes to blame the brown people. It's always someone else, you know? In this country, it's just the way it feels good to blame people.
I recorded some hits in my time, but nothing that brought down the drug kingpin. Yet the recording that Pete Flores made in November 15, 2008 was the only recording the government ever had that could pin El Chapo on drug trafficking in the U.S.
That's a #1 single right there, boy.
Almost exactly 10 years later, Pete, known in the prison system only as PF 22701424, walked into a packed courtroom to testify against the man he betrayed, a man he once saw as family.
It took 10 years from the Flores twins surrendering to the U.S. authorities to get El Chapo in front of a jury.
Crazy.
A week before Christmas 2018, Pete sat in the witness stand, nervously waiting for Joaquin Guzman Loera, El Chapo, to walk in.
I see that they're letting Chapo in. And my stomach's just like, oh, I can see him. He's like, he has like a blue suit, dark suit, kind of a red tie. He comes in, he's shaking his attorney's hands and everyone. He's waving to the sketch artist, you know, like, I don't know why. He's comfortable. And he's still not looking at me. He's just like, you know, saying his greetings. And he looks very pale to me.
He's saving that death stare. He's holding on to that death stare, making it real powerful so that he can burn through your forehead with his eyeballs.
Like, I'm used to seeing him, he's kind of tan. He looks pale when he has hair, and he's kind of like, we kind of have the same texture of hair, and I can see that it just doesn't comb right to the side. You know, I could see that he just looks like funny to me, you know, like I'm getting glimpses of him. And he's smiling, saying hi to everybody. And then he comes and he turns around and he stares right at me. I look back at him and I'm looking at him and he's staring at me. He looks funny to me. For that moment in my own vision, he looked like one of those funny digital kind of like thing, like where his face looked blurry to me, and I kind of
like almost pixel it.
Yeah, like look at him again, and then he just stands, keeps his chest on. He's just staring at me, and he won. I turned around. I looked away, and my nerves were at the worst. Like, and I'm like, he's doing that on purpose, you know? He's
just trying to intimidate you.
Yeah. I'm like,
what was going through your head?
Yeah, it wasn't really just, it was him and it was just everything, you know? Like, this is real, man. I'm here. This is not a bad dream. Like, this is so real. And I remember I look at him, he goes and when he looks at me, he hits his fingers like that. Like, with his 2 fingers, he kind of hits the table, you know? And he's just staring at me. I look away again. He sits down and no matter what, every time I look, he's still staring at me. He's just staring at me the whole time. He wouldn't stop staring at me. So then I see the court's filling up and all the prosecutors are there and, you know, it's busy. And they bring in like the legal secretary, I guess the judge's clerk. That's the first time when the judge comes in and we all rise, and I remember standing up and everyone's staring at, like, everyone's just waiting for us to look at each other, you know? To kind of like see what we do, our interaction. He had that same serious face on him. That he has a real blank stare. I'll never forget that.
How did it make you feel? Especially when he went like
no, that, yeah, I was like,
what do you think that
it was crossing
meant?
my mind, like, what the hell does that mean? Honestly, I got to a point where I started getting a little frustrated, like, for the way I felt. Like, man, you know, like, I'm past this.
You're not scary?
Like, I can't tell you, like, scared. Like, I'm not, like, I wasn't scared of him alone. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but everything he represented and everything
that part is a little bit big, but really, I think that it was internal of what I did. You know, what I was a part of, what I turned my back on, and it seems to be in my face again, in the worst possible way. And thinking, like, yeah, man, like, you wondering, like, You'd probably do some horrific things if you had the chance.
Did you feel guilty?
Who would do some horrific things if they had a chance? Chapo would do some horrific things if he had a chance? To you? Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking Chapo's in the courtroom tapping his fingers and eyeball him, being intimidated. I mean, shit, last line of defense been beat already, but it ain't like people ain't changed their story on the stand. So I get it. You throw your last-ditch effort at making somebody nervous and freak out, and hopefully he'll go on the stand and start speaking gibberish that had nothing to do with nothing. But yeah, I don't know who, I guess he's talking about, I guess he's looking at Chapo like Chapo saying to himself, this guy would do what he want to me if given the chance, and he definitely would. You'd be tied to one of them trees.
Guilty?
Guilty about the fact that you cooperated against him.
I didn't feel good being there, but he wasn't going to feel sorry for me, you know?
Nobody's going to feel sorry
if
for you.
he had the chance, he would have killed me, or like he would have done worse things.
Absolutely.
That's the truth. That's not justifying. I'm just saying, like, but it was so ugly, and just to be in that courtroom, be in a situation. And if you would have told me, like, okay, you could do it a year more and avoid it, or 2 years more and avoid it, I would have chosen to do 2 more years and avoided it, yeah. Or maybe longer, who knows? If you would have told me at the time, my wife would have probably killed me and she would have blamed you about it, you know, but it stays with me. Like, I'm still, like, reliving it brings me, like, these ugly feelings. I remember the courtroom, like, starting, and the judge comes in, we all stand. Then we take an oath, please state your name and spell it, you know, the court. I felt like I was gonna, PF 227014424. You gotta remember how to spell your name again. Like. And, you know, having the prosecutor begin his questioning and kind of introduction of who I am. And I'm answering his questions, but not taking them all the way in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like I haven't recovered from this feeling of them just staring at you. Just staring at you nonstop. And people are comfortable with that. You know, when they're admiring you is one thing, but when they're just staring at you, judging you, you're like...
Was it hard to know where to put your own eyes?
Yeah, you look around, I'm trying not to stare at, you know, nothing, you know, and everything at the same time, you know, but it's hard not to. And then looking over at Chapo, he's still staring at you, and then he's whispering to the lawyers beside him. And
he's whispering to the lawyers all of the things you're thinking. Boy, I'd tie him to a tree right now if I had the opportunity. That boy would be boiling if I had the opportunity. That's what he's telling his lawyer.
I could see the translators facing him. And I could see her talking to him. Everything I'm saying, she's translating. You know, the questioning begins, and I never get completely comfortable. And I'm nervous because I'm saying, like, you know, I'm nervous already, and I'm speaking to a person I've talked with before, and I'm saying, the man. And who's the man? I'm like, Chapo, you know? Because we're used to calling him Senor.
Yeah, so you were saying the man.
To people like that, I mean, my brother and I would say, like, Chapo, you know, or Senor, you know, Oiga, like, with respect, you know? A couple of times I'm messing up a little bit because I'm nervous, and a couple of times the prosecutor kind of messes up his questioning a little bit. It's not routine. Everything we went through was, like, out the window. So when I talk about things like my crimes and me testifying and cooperating against, you know, so many people, that was hard. I was embarrassed because we were talking about the crimes I get committed. Again, in my world, you know, they praise you for the bad stuff, you know, but in the eyes of just regular people, it's like, and you're telling your story to these people who are judging you, and it's a lot of emotions you deal with, you know? I try to tell my story, like, as normal as it could be, but it's not normal. And just answer the question and move on. the conversations of, you know, how I started and my dad and all that comes up, and it kind of stays with you, you know? Thinking of those things while he's staring at me, it was like uncomfortable, you know? Thinking of the threats and thinking what he's thinking in his mind, who knows, you know? But it seemed like he was entertained telling the story, and we had a lot of like times where everyone would just laugh because you're telling a story, or you get confused with the meaning and stuff was, you know? They tell me the keys. Where were the keys? I'm like, in the back of the van. They no, not the key, the car keys. Oh, those keys. They're like, you know, laughing, you know? Little stuff like that, you know?
Him and Chapo sharing a laugh in the courtroom one last time, with feelings of guilt for flipping on everybody. Now the question is, does Chapo have feelings of guilt for making the twins choose sides and possibly their family? Probably not. Goth asked a question in the chat. She said, "I'm really surprised Sinaloa hasn't reached out and touched them. I guess they're letting it go." I feel like at this point, who's fighting for Chapo? You know what I'm saying? Who's coming up for Chapo? Like, these dudes is out there ratting each other as it is. Recently, Luis Chaparro did an interview with El Minilik. El Minilik is a dude that was like a son, supposedly, to Chapo. He was Chapo's partner's kid, came up with the Chapitos, and now them dudes are going at it, and he ratted on them, and he did his time and came out, and this, that, and the other. The way the cartels work is, the Godfather's gone, who's next? Doesn't necessarily have to come from his line of people. It's whoever's strong enough to take it. So really, who's going out and collecting debts and collecting revenge for Chapo right now? I feel like as far as they're concerned, they done wrote the whole Chapo thing out. So maybe they did let it go. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it is something that got let go. And their punishment is shit like this, where you get to sit in the courtroom and you get to testify, point your finger, and feel the way that you feel about it. Who knows? But I just don't see, you know, from what I've learned doing this series about the cartel, it's like, we on to the next one, bro. We're going to keep this shit moving regardless. That's how I feel. I don't know.
It was like at the moment I'm trying to describe the situation as best as I could, and the whole time he's staring at me. One of the weirdest things that I felt while I was up there, besides the nervousness and I wanted to throw up right there, was that the prosecutor pulled out an evidence bag and he holds it up with both hands. Do you see this? And it's marked like evidence. And he's holding it up for the whole courtroom to see. The prosecutor is holding it up. And then he's like, permission to approach the witness. He calls it. He puts the scissors on right in front of me. He grabs the scissors back and he cuts the envelope open. And I could see it's like a plastic bag and some cellophane or something wrapped up. And he's going to the bag and he pulls out a phone.
One phone.
And he's like, here. He hands it to me. And after all the years of not having like a phone in my hand, he gives me a phone. For that little moment, I'm lost. Like, I'm looking at the phone like, wow, I wonder if I could call Vivian on it. But it's the phone that Chapo called me.
The recording phone.
That I had brought with me. And it's like I couldn't get over that. Like, that I'm holding this phone again. You know, I've done it so long. That was like shocking to me.
10 years? Shit.
And to think like that, phone signed evidence for it. 10 years. And he's like, could you turn it on? Yeah. Most likely it's not gonna work. It's been sitting for 10 years. And but they have, pull up on the screen, they have the call list and all that.
Phone turn right on. Make a delivery real quick. Drop off 2 bricks at the courthouse, bro.
All that. And I remember I would always put me, like, store my own number on the phone just in case I needed it. And I had stored Señor's. I put Señor as a contact from the number he called me on. And then the call log, and they went, just randomly went through some numbers, and they're like, who's, you know, there's another call. There's a call on this date. Could you tell me the date? And I'm like, yeah, it's this date. And they're like, what's the number? 312-588-2300. Yeah, could you please tell the court, like, what that number is? Do you recognize it? I'm like, yeah.
That's for those that ain't in Chicago, that's the Empire Carpet Man right there, that phone number, 588-2300, very famous phone number in my city.
What is it? I'm like, it's a number for Empire Carpeting.
588-2300 Empire.
Yeah, I had to explain that when I would set up these phones, like new phones, burner phones, I would just, to check the phone, make sure they were working like internationally and that, I would call Empire Carpeting. I don't care what time it was, I just call
Empire.
Call us, day or night. And as soon as I heard Empire Carpeting, whatever, a little recording on, and all my numbers that I set up would have just 312-588-2300.
So that means that the twins walking around, each of them had about 50 or so phones. With these 100 phones, all the feds needed to do to lock everything down was track what was coming into the Empire. You guys implicated. Even Empire Carpeting wasn't safe. The old man with the mustache got implicated in this whole conspiracy too. All they had to do was get the call information that was coming into 588-2300 for who knows how many years, and they would have had every single phone number for every single burner that these dudes had. Come on, man.
And they all laughed, you know?
So what did that tell you when you did that? It told you that the phone works. So every time you call that number on different phones?
Yeah, the phone was working properly, and I could give it away to someone. And that was the phone that Chapo called me on, and I recorded the conversation with. I think that was like towards the end of the evening. Like, it was getting late, and we were gonna break till the next day. And I was just like exhausted and tired of feeling nervous and sick and everything. I remember when we get up, I don't even turn around, just the open door, I just walk out. Go back to the jury room, and the prosecutor comes in. He's like, you're doing great. You're doing great, don't worry about it. You know, tomorrow we'll continue. We should finish up by tomorrow, sometime in the afternoon. But we're gonna start early. So by the time I get back to the prison that evening, like, everyone knows I testified. Bro, we seen you on TV, you testified. Blah, 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 you know? It's all over the news and the local news. And
What was your reaction?
I just didn't want to talk about it. I just wanted to call my family, my kiddos, and check on them, you know? And try to get some sleep. I remember the next day was just even a little more nerve-wracking, thinking that, yeah, I knew eventually we were going to come to cross-examination, you know? And just expecting the worst from me. Like, if it's hard to do it with the people that you've gotten comfortable with, cannot imagine doing it with people who are there to attack you. And I remember thinking in my head, like, regardless of what anyone says, I mean, you could say whatever you want about me, and I'm not an angel, I made mistakes, and the baby, the Bentley, the billboard, and all those things, and no.
The baby, the Bentley, the billboard, the 3 Bs that, after clarification and paying close attention, was all Peter. The 3 Bs were all Peter.
I was in trouble while I was in prison and did, you know, different things, and that's his voice on that recording.
Bueno, entonces mañana recojo el dinero, ¿está bien?
Sí. There was a massive amount of drugs seized by the government, like, and money, and you can't get away from that. You know, it's hard to, like, to tell, you know, a recording that it's lying. I would be like, they don't even need me. They just press replay on the recording. That's it. So we go back the next day, same routine, you know, and same nerves. Nothing got easier. A lot of people, man, just packed. Everyone just in there, you know. And those days I went, Chapo's wife was in the courtroom. It's the only time that his wife was in the courtroom. We kind of finish off, like, some of my testimony for the government. Like, they play some tapes, and of course, we get to the tapes. That was hard, yeah.
I can imagine.
I mean, because they're telling you, like, what does it mean when you said this to him and said that to him, and you're explaining to him?
Pete had to explain to an anonymous jury exactly what the discussion on the tapes meant and how he had to lie to El Chapo to keep him on the phone. The call was the smoking gun, the evidence that demonstrated El Chapo's connection to the supply of drugs coming into the US. Pete had to lie about the quality of a shipment of heroin he'd received, saying it was a bad batch, so that El Chapo wouldn't be suspicious about why Pete was asking for more so soon.
Sabe, si me hace el favor, se los pago 50, pero ahí tengo el cheque listo.
¿Ya tienes el dinero?
Digo, si me los puede dejar, ¿verdad? La diferencia.
I wonder how much other friction that caused. Him saying, I got a bad batch. Chapo saying, all right, I'm going to send you some more. And then figuring out, hey, man, who sent that bad batch? Bring them in here. Tie them to that tree. Put them in the water.
Digo, se los pago luego y...
¿Cuánto es lo que te entregaron?
Me entregaron 20.
¿Cuánto?
20.
So I had to like explain to him, like, I already picked them up, but I wanted to tell you that I wanted to renegotiate the price. Well, it was weird because I already had them on my possession, you know?
Okay. Ok, le agradezco mucho. Es que también, es que allá el otro señor también me había dado algo que no salió bueno y los tengo que ahí emparejar con...
But he was open to it, you know, and I had to lie to him and explain to him that I had received very poor quality kilos of heroin and that his were super good. In reality, all the heroin we picked up was over 95% pure. And he heard me out, and I remember discussing with him that not only those 20 kilos of heroin I had already picked up, but telling him, look, if you could send me like 40 a month, that would work fine. And I need some right now. Do you have some? He's like, look, I don't have some right now, but next week I'll give them to you. And me having to say, well, I was lying to him. To just get him to talk about it right in front of his face was not easy. I felt like wrong, you know what I'm saying? I did. I felt like shitty about it.
Was he still staring at you?
Yeah, he stared at me the whole time. Like, I could see him like moving his lips around. He never stopped staring at me. He'll speak to his attorneys, and without taking his gaze off of me. He'd win any stare contest, like for real. Like that blink contest, like you won again. I play with my kids sometimes.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was hard, going through that whole conversation, explaining that. And then not only that, I was wondering what he was thinking, what he was feeling about that.
Assistant US Attorney Adam Fells led Pete's questioning, then turned him over to the defense to be cross-examined. Jay's ex-attorney, Jeffrey Lippman, was not allowed to cross-examine Pete because of the conflict of interest. So instead, another of El Chapo's three-man defense team stepped up, William Purpura.
Okay, here we go. I'm like, okay, this is the real, now we're really getting into this. His defense was that I somehow altered the tape myself. I remember feeling like, you should give Chapo the money back.
It is a cheap ass defense. That's a cheap ass defense. I'm trying to think of the time as far as technology is concerned. But it sounds real cheap. Like, oh, well, that's a fake tape. Oh, that's what you got. That's your defense. That's it. It doesn't seem ironclad.
His defense was that I somehow altered the tape myself. I remember feeling like, you should give Chapo the money back. You knew this was coming for years, and that's all you could have said. He played me back the Rolling Stone interview, the Rolling Stone magazine interview he did with Sean Penn.
Yeah.
And like walked me through it. If the voices sounded exactly alike, I'm like, no. I just thought it was a weak argument.
The focus of El Chapo's defense was that it wasn't El Chapo's voice on the recording that Pete made, and that there was a conspiracy against him. Everyone else was corrupt, including US drug agents and even 2 Mexican presidents. His defense claimed that El Mayo was the actual boss of the Sinaloa cartel and had overseen operations for the last 2 decades, and that actually El Chapo was a nobody with a second-grade education and for years had just been used as a scapegoat.
The argument that Chapo wasn't...
So here's the question: does that make Chapo a rat? Him saying, his lawyer saying on his behalf, Chapo was just a patsy. The dude is Mayo. Mayo's that dude. He been running things for 20 years. Chapo just the face of the operation. Does that make Chapo a snitch? Sounds the same to me. Is Chapo snitching on Mayo by making himself a patsy and having his lawyer implicate Mayo in this whole situation?
The real boss. That's dry snitching right there. It's
Boom,
Mayo's
there it
boss.
is.
Actually, El Chapo was a nobody.
It don't seem even
with a
dry to me.
second
It don't even seem like dry snitching. Dry snitching is for those that don't know, dry snitching is like you know, a passive aggressive snitching, you know what I'm saying? Pointing over there type shit. That sounded like snitching to me. It didn't even sound like dry snitching. It sounded like he was ratting them out.
Actual boss of the Sinaloa cartel and had overseen operations for the last 2 decades. And that actually, El Chapo was a nobody with a second-grade education and for years had just been used as a scapegoat.
The argument that Chapo wasn't the real boss, that's dry snitching right there. It's Mayo Zambada. I'm trying to explain to him, like, I believe that they're both the real boss and that they ran the organization the way my brother and I did, that whatever it was, it benefited both of us. And whether you talk to my brother, you talk to me, it was the same thing. And that's why I view both individuals, you know? And explain that, like my brother and I were like part of a business, part of this, you know, this cartel world. There's different tiers of different, you know, positions for people, and not everyone's a soldier and not everyone's a boss. I'm trying to explain that to the jury.
The defense was throwing everything they could at Pete, even questioning him about the deal he got for his corporation. They specifically brought up the fact that as part of his cooperation, his wife Viv received an immunity deal, which meant that she couldn't be charged for anything relating to her husband's criminal activity.
Of course, they're proud of like, my wife getting immunity. Like, your wife wasn't charged. No, she wasn't. She was given immunity. Because she wasn't charged for a reason. You know, we have that debate now. It's like, I don't think that anybody would come in to cooperate and not protect their own family at first.
And they brought up one of the 3 Bs, the baby, and how Viv became pregnant while Pete was in prison.
When he started trying to bring up the pregnancy things, everyone laughed. Like he's trying to walk me like, so like, how long? I'm like, it wasn't long, I promise. You know, everyone's laughing. You know, I'm a man in prison with a chance to go and be with his wife. Just so many little things, you know, like, that they would bring up that felt had no relevance to.
Because they was trying to shake you up. Of course they're going to bring it all up. They're there to embarrass you. They're there to shake you up. They're there to, you know, to make sure you're not in the right mind state. Let me throw his kid in his face. Let's just drown him in his own shit.
No case.
Oh,
no,
snap. I said the word shit. I believe that might be the first time I cussed today. That might be the reason this whole video gets demonetized, because YouTube is targeting me right now.
Just so many little things, you know, like, that they would bring up that I felt had no relevance to helping the case, you know. But I guess he has to try something. And there's a lot of tension. Like, you see something, they feel like I was the only one that testified against somebody. There's 14 of us.
14?
One of the guys testified that he had 140 people killed. And he had sold like 1 million kilos of cocaine and had a fortune of like $15 billion. Ultimately, all I had to do was just go in there and tell the truth.
Now, here's the thing. We don't know these other 14 people. Through our research, maybe we find these other 14 people. Right now, what we got is the Flores twins. The Flores twins sold their story. This is what allows everybody to be able to judge them and to have their opinions on them. You know what I'm saying? Because they sold their story. It's open to the people. We don't know these other people. Trust me, I'll be looking, though. I'm on a research binge.
Yeah, I testified for 2 long days. I remember the last thing, walking and the doors closed where I leave, and they're like, everyone's like getting up. And Chapo gets up, and me and him are standing across from each other this time. We're both just looking at each other, and he's looking at me.
They should have just uncuffed them both and just let them clash right in the center of the courtroom and just see who's who at the end of it. You know what I mean? Who y'all got y'all money on? Who takes it? Fight between Pete and Chapo, middle of the courtroom. Nobody intervenes. Everybody gets out the way. Who's taking that fight? Who wins, Chapo or Peter Flores? Y'all let me know in the chat.
I'm staring at him back, just looking at him, and he's looking at me, and we both kind of turn around at the same time. He walked out that door, and I walked out this door. We go back, and I, get to speak with the prosecutor real quick. He said, "You did great, man. I wish you the best of luck." And I said, "You gonna try to help me?" He's like, "I will." And the time's right, well. And he kept his word. He wrote a letter stating that he felt that they should give me the 2 years off.
Adam Fells, the lead prosecutor, wrote that letter to Judge Ruben Castillo, requesting a sentence reduction for the twins because of how great they've been as cooperators. US attorneys Adam Fells, Thomas Shakeshaft, and Michael Ferrara had been with the twins from the beginning, often spending more time with Jay and Pete over the past decade than their own family, and all advocated for the shorter recommendation of the twins' sentence. The sentencing reduction was denied. Pete didn't get any further benefit for testifying in court against El Chapo.
Leaving there and just thinking like I'm glad I got through it, feeling like I did the right thing. And thinking like, look, I thought it was behind me. And it's like...
Yeah, did you feel like it was done then?
It's like you sell something for a price and then you got to keep coming back and paying some more.
Yep. Property tax.
It's not easy, man. This wasn't an easy situation with my brother and I for our family. It's taken a humongous toll on us, and the price we paid has been huge.
How long did Chapo get?
He got a life sentence plus 30 years.
The trial against El Chapo lasted 3 months. He was sentenced on July 17, 2019 to life in prison, plus 30 years, and was ordered to pay $12.6 billion in forfeiture. It took 31 different agencies worldwide to take El Chapo down. He's now in ADX Florence, Administrative Maximum Penitentiary, known as Supermax in Colorado. Supermax has been described by its own ex-warden as worse than death. The prison is designed to keep every inmate in near total solitary confinement. You shower and eat in your cell. Meals are slid through small holes so you have no contact with anyone, and you only get one 15-minute phone call a month.
Torture, boy.
Inmates have been diagnosed with insanity while being incarcerated there. It's considered escape-proof. No one has ever escaped. While he may not get to meet them, El Chapo shares a prison with some of the worst criminals. The Boston Marathon bomber, the Atlanta Olympic...
Right, like the least you could do, if you're going to put us all in one bed, let us commingle, like, You know what I'm saying? The Rogues Gallery for Batman and shit. Just let everybody commingle, all the coolest hustlers and in the history just all chilling in the same day room.
Olympics bomber, the World Trade Center bomber, and the co-founder of Al-Qaeda and advisor to bin Laden. Even Dr. Death resides there. On the 5th of January 2022, El Chapo appealed for release or a retrial, stating he was denied the right to a fair trial and alleged juror misconduct. A year later, he sent an SOS appeal to the Mexican president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, for release back to Mexico on humanitarian grounds due to the alleged psychological torment he's suffering.
Denied.
With El Chapo's trial done, the Flores twins only had 2 years left in prison. But there was one completely unexpected challenge about to hit.
The latest on COVID-19 virus.
Updates on our response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Things are moving very, very quickly when it comes to the coronavirus.
The coronavirus outbreak.
Coronavirus is a critical governmental situation. It's a public health crisis.
The Federal Prison Bureau is reporting which facilities have how many coronavirus cases and the deaths at those facilities.
Nearly 450 inmates currently have confirmed positive lab for COVID. Sadly, there have been 15 COVID-19 related inmate deaths.
I was so thankful for not being sick, for being healthy most of my time in prison. And, you know, for me to get to that point and then being sick, especially during COVID, it just made everything even harder.
Jay almost died in prison. You know, he spent 56 days in the hospital. He had 3 surgeries.
For what? COVID? Damn. Guess we'll find out next week. All right, y'all, we made it. That was episode 7. Much better than, I don't know, episode 3, 4, 5, 6. For me, it played quick. It went quick because there was information involved. It had to do with the story as far as, yeah, I get it. It's just like any movie. I get annoyed with the love story in a movie if it's a waste of time. You know what I'm saying? If it has nothing to do with moving the plot forward, to me, it's useless. It's their story. So if they do a TV show, if they do a movie, we're always going to hear about their family and what they went through and their love story and all of that. Cool. Right now, I'm glad we got to the gusto, we got to the court appearance, we got to the testimony, we got to the information. That's what I wanted to hear. We learned a couple of things. There was 14 other people testifying against Chapo that day. Chapo and his lawyer basically snitched on Mayo and threw Mayo in the line of fire and under the bus. That Chapo would win in a staring contest with anybody. And but a much better episode. I don't know how many they got left, if it's 3, if it's 4. But hopefully, you know, we're back to this. Expect the episode next week. Expect the Ovid episode. Or I gotta figure out how to hide these words. Much better episode overall than the last 3 or 4 episodes. And I'm glad to be back. This one's titled Freedom.
I think that everyone been in prison for a while, like they have a lot of struggles. It's hard, man, to adapt to your new life, especially when you have identity crisis or you're not. We used to be, you disassociate yourself with so much of your past, and then, you know, for me, now I'm here, but now I'm dealing with a whole new, set of issues.
A lot of people have been complaining about the twins' voice. Yeah, they talk low and stuff like that, but the audio's just been inconsistent on how they recorded. Throughout all the different times, you got somebody different micing you, different equipment, different this, that, the other. It's just mad inconsistent. It's hard to understand what they're saying sometimes.
The Flores twins spent 8 months trying to get El Chapo on tape while they were running drugs for him in Mexico. They handed themselves into authorities and then spent the next 10 years cooperating for the government in prison.
Then it was 2 long days on the witness stand.
Finally, El Chapo was sent to prison for life plus 30 years.
Everything the twins had worked toward for over a decade, trying to turn their lives around, culminated at this moment. And it was finally over. For the first time in their lives, they could look forward to their happily ever after. An honest life outside of the world of peddling kilos or the bars of a prison cell. But what does that actually mean for two people whose introduction to the drug life began at 7 years old? The cooperation was over, and at 38, the brothers only had 2 years left until they would finally be free.
The government no longer needed them, so their protection as high-profile witnesses was over. After what they had gone through over 10 years, another 2 might seem easy. But there was one challenge. None of us saw it coming. COVID.
Was the last 2 years any different for you?
Miserable.
Really?
Because I continued to fight to go home. And then COVID hit. We're on 24-hour lockdown. We're just on lockdown indefinitely. Like, we'll let you out when we think it's safe. And you're like, how could they do that? It was kind of like ridiculous to think that we've been on segregated, you know, set apart from the society for safety reasons. And that COVID hit, right? But we're COVID-free. We ain't never been around anyone exposed to COVID. So the only people that have been exposed to COVID are the guards. And that's the only way to get it in, is that they're gonna bring it into us. So they get to go home every day and come back, go home, come back, but we're stuck in the cell. And you're back captive again. You know, you're hungry. You know, you're just in that cell, you know. And I'll write letters to my wife, feeling miserable about what she was dealing with on her own. I can't explain to you like what it's like to do that, like to write letters. Writing so many letters, and like if I didn't get the mail, like they didn't write to me, I feel so sick. My anxiety would be so horrible if I didn't hear from her. Think at least that she was okay and the kids were okay. And then the worst part is that these piece of shit CEOs was like, do you have to write a book every day? Like, man, do your fucking job, man, you know? Take my fucking mail and put it in the mailbox, like, if you don't want to read it. Like, are you serious? We're in fucking lockdown in COVID. We have no access to the phone. We can't call our family.
We tell him, he must have never been in love before, CO.
And you're gonna fucking talk shit about me writing a letter? This is my fucking right to write a letter, like, for my children, you know, we're worried and you can't call home and check on them. And my mom and everyone.
COVID was bad enough for people on the outside. I could just imagine, and not just for the twins, but for anybody on the inside. And the countless people that I'm sure died, you know, in the corner of a cold cell or a cold cell block or pod, wheezing till he can't breathe no more, you know? I'm sure it happened to plenty of people. I don't know. I might not get monetized simply for saying the word Ovid, but it is what it is. Freedom of speech, right?
I wasn't allowed to see them till like October for 1 hour behind like a plastic shower curtain.
Prisoners nationwide were stopped from seeing any visitors from March 2020, when COVID first hit the world. When Pete was finally able to have his family visit, 7 months later, it had to be done through a plastic shower curtain, and their time together was limited to an hour. On the other side of the country, COVID had hit Jay's prison early on, so Val applied for compassionate release, hoping he would be allowed to serve his final months under home confinement. The compassionate release was denied. The twins were not eligible for home confinement for safety reasons.
The last few months seemed longer than some of the time I was like there, and you know, with COVID, it's just kind of like made everything a little bit harder. In any other situation, I would have been home already. Like, because of my situation, I wasn't like privileged to some of the opportunities that regular inmates had, like a happy house or home confinement or anything like that. So any other time I would have been home already. But
we filed for compassionate release just because in the prison he was at, COVID was already there, and there was already like inmates and staff that had it. And
this was, you know, early on, right? You don't know nothing about COVID.
Yeah, and it was scary.
Around the same time, Jay started to feel sick, but none of the prison guards believed him. They thought he was faking his illness. Because his
to the police, you can't even die and it be the truth. You know, I don't know if y'all, a lot of you people that watch my Cartel content don't watch the other content that I was doing, which is basically dumb criminals and dumb cops. You can't even die in front of the police and them believe you. That's how bad it's gotten. These dudes be dying in front of the police. Police looking at them talking about stop bullshitting. Like, what? Are you people crazy? And then they got an excuse and a reason why they just watch somebody die like that. Like, bruh, whether I'm faking or I'm not faking, take it serious and be on your P's and Q's. If you worried that I'm faking it to try to get at you or do this or that, cool. Take me serious, but be on your P's and Q's. That's it. Don't just deny somebody that's telling you they're sick medical attention and now they die on your watch.
Because his compassionate release had been denied.
It was hard. I was so thankful for not being sick, for being healthy most of my time in prison.
It was probably one of the hardest times of just not knowing, especially the whole time that he was in prison. It's like we were there every weekend. And then when COVID hit, we couldn't see him for the last year. And he ended up getting sick during that time.
You know, for me to get to that point and then being sick, especially during COVID, it just made everything even harder.
They must have thought that because it was around the same time that we filed for compassionate release that he was like almost making it up, until like his whole face like blew up and his throat, like his airways ended up closing on him. So he was almost...
They'll watch somebody's head swell up and eyes bulge out and be like, he's faking it. How he make his head swell up though, dog? How is that even possible?
Almost incapacitated by the time they took him out of the prison. And that's how the infection got so bad, and then that's how he ended up getting sepsis.
I can imagine that must have been so
Damn, he got
for you.
sepsis?
What was it like for you being in a cell and struggling to breathe and not being helped?
You know what? I think just being like helpless in the cell, it got to a point where I couldn't, like I'm shaking. I can't even tell you like what that last week was like because, you're in pain and I'm just lost.
Jay called me one day. He couldn't like even speak because his face and his everything was so swollen. Like even when he was speaking, I couldn't really understand him. And I got into this whole rant that he needs to sign out of the program just so that way they can take him to a regular prison. That way he had the right to go to a hospital.
I was in pain. I got desperate and I was trying everything. And I guess it was getting to a point where I was not well. And, the inmates, people around me are just trying to take care of me. And I just don't even recall. I just know that an officer doing his rounds at night saw me. And I was unrecognizable at this point.
Yo, that's crazy.
He
really
saw me.
Swollen.
Yeah, he saw me and...
Like with your face and neck.
And he saw me. He's like, hey, oh my, something's not, I just couldn't even, I wasn't taking in oxygen. I don't recall. I do know that they carried me out myself. They put me in an ambulance. And I remember the doctors being really upset.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen
really
in a day.
Upset. Why?
Because what? Why wasn't he here sooner?
Right.
This doesn't happen in a day or 2 days. This been going on for a long period of time. This is not acceptable. I'm just at this point, I'm just listen, fix me, do whatever you have to do.
They even had to transfer him to another hospital for intensive care.
Trauma unit.
So
you're in intensive care?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was transferred to another hospital that can handle his case.
That's crazy.
They got lost the first few days. Those hospital beds, just not being able to talk to my family or know from them. You can't communicate, so. And they can't be there.
We didn't even know what was going on with him, if he was okay, if he was, alive. We just knew that it was really, really bad because like in a prison like that, when it comes to like security purposes, they don't take you out to the hospital unless you're like almost dying. So for me,
here's the problem. They're not doctors. So they don't know when you're almost dying until it's too late. You know what I'm saying? How many other guards ain't walk past him, look right at him and say, he's fine. Well, the one guard looked at him and he was dumbfounded at what he was looking at. Then the doctor's surprised at what they're looking at. But that just don't happen with the twins. That happens all the time. And these guards they don't get in trouble for letting people reach the brink of death or die. These dudes don't get in. They rarely get in trouble. They rarely gonna serve their time any time for watching somebody die when they got a right to some kind of medical attention, regardless what it is.
Me to know that, because Jay has to be moved with marshals, and it's like this big, it takes a lot of work to move him to a hospital. So it was devastating not being able to know what was going on and speaking to the attorneys and trying to find out if my husband was okay. Because I'm like, just tell me that he's not in a coma. Tell me he's, stable. Tell me something. And they couldn't. And I wanted direct access to his doctors. I needed some type of line of communication just to know he was okay. I didn't need to know what hospital he was at. I just needed to know that, he was breathing. He spent 56 days in the hospital. Yeah. He had 3 surgeries.
Bruh.
I think, it was hard. Like, you're alone, right? You're in the like people, you spend time in the shoe. And then, like, solitary, like, that's solitude is hard. But being sick and kind of helpless, being in the hospital where you have no one to, like, care for you or nurture you.
You're shackled to a bed.
Yeah, I was shackled to a bed. Like, that's hard. I do remember, like, once I started, like, feeling, like, a little bit better, like, I was in pain. I had tubes going down my throat. And so I couldn't speak. And I remember that's when you really feel that loneliness. Like, I would have all these, like, thoughts about, wow, like, when you're, like, not conscious or when you're in those situations, that's when you look for that nurturing mom, right? As a baby. Like, I remember just having those feelings, like, wow, this is why marriage and family is so important. You're supposed to have someone. You're supposed to have each other. And I think that it's just kind of like, to me, it was like, again, just a reminder, right, of what it's like to be alone. And when you're in those situations, you wonder, like, I'm gonna die alone? Like, this is what it's gonna be like. So kind of going back to those times. So just going through all that and not having my family, being able to talk to them, that was very hard. Because I'm I depend a lot on my family, I depend a lot on my wife. I'm a social person, and just, not being able to talk and just being to pain and just kind of just keeping it to yourself, which a lot of people might think, well, a lot of people keep things to themselves. Thanks to my wife and thanks for me having a twin brother, I never had to keep something to myself. That was foreign to me. That I'm kind of suffering alone in a way.
Jay got an infection, which led to sepsis.
Bro, 56 days in the hospital and however many surgeries. That boy lucky to be alive, because that's crazy. That means they was watching a dead man all of that time, waiting for him to go. It's like if Chapo put the hit on him. That's crazy.
Because he was left without treatment for so long. He spent 56 days in hospital before he was eventually transferred back to prison. But he didn't stay there for long. By the time he got back, he only had a few weeks left until he was released. The twins were able to get 2 years and 2 months taken off their sentence for good behavior, which is the maximum a federal inmate can earn off their sentence for staying out of trouble. It's around 15%. Because they received the same sentence, they were released on the same day. When they first went to prison, they spent 8 months in the SHU. Now, 12 years later, they would go to the SHU for the last time. Because of COVID, prisoners had to spend 2 weeks quarantined in the SHU before they left. On November the 5th, 2020, it was time to go home. Jay was first out.
Ain't that crazy? You about to get out, so your punishment is if you could survive this 2 weeks in the SHU, you're good. And for you, Jay, if you can survive this sepsis, this COVID, this 56 days in the hospital, if you can survive this, we might give you an early release. Maybe, just maybe.
What was it like for you when you came out of prison? What was that day? What happened on that day?
I think it was surreal. That was like for sure. Like I couldn't even. Of course I didn't sleep, and as soon as the doors opened, everybody came to my. They had been saying goodbye, and people came just give me letters, and I still couldn't believe it. It was emotional, believe it or not.
The homies.
I left a lot of good people behind. I think that.
So you had a lot of relationships.
Yeah, for sure. And I think
in prison at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that. I guess they got used to just having me, right? As a positive, like, let me come to you for advice, or, and just
a voice of reason.
Just, like, be there for them, and I did worry about some where I was like, damn, what are they gonna do without me? And. I made a really good friend. And I was with him for 10 years. He was my cellie. And I knew he needed me. And he was there for me too. Like, I remember I used to go through them hard times, and I went through a hard situation with my family, and like, we're in the cell, and he just came and hugged me, and I remember like just being emotional. And he was like one of those tough men, like, oh, I'm not gonna cry, I'm not gonna. And then when it was time for me to go, like that day, he was like, he cried. He was like, what am I going to do without you? And it's weird because...
you can be a man!
This individual is famous for how many brothers he has. And I remember he said, I need to tell you something. Like, I've never had the relationship with my own brothers that I've had with you. And I'm really going to miss you. And I'm happy that you're going home, man. You deserve it. It was emotional. If you think about it, he was in my life every day for 10 years. That was as long as my run. So all those people that meant to me something in the street that I knew for within those 10 years and sometimes less, that I felt close to, you just could imagine what it was like for me to be with this, with him for 10 years. And he did have a date to come home. At that time, it was 4 years. And, there was people in there that were not coming home soon or not coming home at all. So it did kind of weigh on me. It's like bittersweet. Like, I waited for this day for so long. I'm more worried about them. Like, you're overdoing it. He would like say that. And I'm like, no, I said, you guys are going to be all right. I just kind of give him a little speech. You guys are going to be all right. Hugged them and...
Did you give him a little speech?
Yeah.
What did he say?
I thanked him for everything because I think that you depend. That's your family. And I'm a family man. We have our own little group where it's like that you kind of live with every day, that you depend on. You form this bond. And
you're human. You ain't got no choice.
I had begged the staff there, like, please come get me early. Like, don't take your time. They're like, you're going to go home. We're going to be here at 8. And they said, your wife is not going to be on time. We're not doing that. I said, listen, yes, she is. I said, listen, I waited a long time for this, please. And they came for me early. They came probably a little bit before 6 a.m.
Was wifey there on time? Is the question. Because they seem to know a pattern we don't know about. Or they was just assuming.
And they let me say goodbye to everybody. I just walking down the highway, I just couldn't, I was emotional for sure. Like goosebumps all over my body, just
even when it was time for me to sign all the paperwork, I was like, wow, this is really gonna happen. And I'll never forget, like, after I signed the paperwork, they're like, go ahead, call your wife, see if she's here. I was like, excuse me? They call your wife. Pick up the phone. And call your wife. I said, I can pick up the phone? He's like, technically, you're not in prison anymore.
You're free, bro.
And I was like, oh, shit. So, pick up the phone, and like, no answer. No answer, no answer. I don't remember a lot of phone numbers. I'm like calling, like, hold on, no answer. No one is answering my phone.
She's late.
No, this ain't happening.
She's late. First phone call.
Finally, I come. She answers. I'll never forget. She was like, "We'll be there in an hour." I said, "What?" I like, listen. I was so hurt. It hurt me. I'm sitting there like, and because of my situation, they just didn't want to, like, they're not just gonna put me out the door.
The COs knew she was gonna be late,
sure
bro.
I leave the premises safely. And I was so embarrassed to tell the unit manager. She said, no, she said, I told you. I was like, oh.
You mess around, leave him outside, and he get popped off right out front. Who does that land on, huh? What happened? He was sitting out there waiting an hour for wifey, and then what else happened? The cartel came through and chewed him up.
To me. And I was like, wow. Just sitting there, and they're like, you want to use the phone? Go ahead and just call your wife back. Make sure she gets here. And I was like, oh, okay. And called her back. I said, I could talk to you, like, on the phone. Like, wow. And I don't have to use, like, the operators don't have to tell me I'm being recorded. Like, it was like, wow. That was the first, like, glimpse of, like, being free that I felt, which was amazing. And yeah, she got there a little bit, like an hour and 20 minutes later.
Don't get it twisted. So bad because there's like a whole entourage, and
you were being recorded, bro.
And everyone has to wait in order to, like, release Jay, to make sure that, you know, he's safe, our family's safe.
It's a big process. It's not what you think. It's like armed guards, like, taking you.
Yeah.
And they waited, and, you know, now she has everyone waiting. I felt really embarrassed.
But when I got out of the car, everyone was like, okay, I get it. I broke my foot the night before. I was trying to, like, run around the house and make everything perfect. That's, like, what I do. I want to, like, lay everything out and make sure
and
everything
you
looks
know what? I always tell her, you're so worried about everything else that you lose focus on what's important.
I just wanted to make sure, like,
but you know what? No matter what.
I charged Jay's toothbrush. I wanted to make sure he had.
But I got weak ass ankles, man, or strong ass ankles. She blew an ankle out in a prison escape, and she blew an ankle out on a prison release, man. What the fuck is going on?
He had his, like, everything he could possibly need, like his slippers. Like, I was like, my mind just goes to the most simplest things of what he's gonna need, and I just wanted to make everything perfect for him. And
no matter what, it was special. I
ended up just running outside and putting up all of the Christmas lights. It was just barely November. I had the landscapers out there just trying to make everything so nice for him. And I ended up tripping over.
While the feds is asking, oh yeah? Where y'all getting all this landscaping money? You want to explain this landscaping money to me, huh? Who paid for that ankle insurance? You know what I'm saying? That's what they want to know at that time. That's what they was asking.
One of the cables outside, and I completely broke my foot.
I was surprised to see it that way. I was like, what is going on? And it was hard, but, you know, it didn't take away, like, once I was there and once I felt like I still couldn't believe I felt free, like, no shackles, no. And of course, it was emotional. All my kids were there, and we just stood there just crying in tears.
Crying, it was so surreal.
And then they're like, you gotta go. Like, be there, you have to go. So I had to jump in the car, and it was like, I still remember my son, you know, just kind of quiet, look at me. He was happy, he had a smile on his face. And he kind of hugged me, and I'm like, I told you, I was not always going to be there.
That's your youngest, who had never actually lived with you. He'd only ever known you in prison.
Yeah.
And he could not even comprehend that his dad one day was going to be able to walk out that door. Like, he didn't even, he's like, there's no way. Are you sure? He never thought that he would be released from prison.
It's weird. I was lost of words. Like, I was just like this feeling of fulfillment that's hard to describe. And I'm there just, it was really emotional, and just me wanting to like touch him and just, you know, hug him. Yeah, hug. And you know, I had the advantage of being home a little sooner than my brother because of the time difference. I would tell my...
Damn, Jay, you got the advantage again? Yo, poor Peter, man. What the hell? Buddy can't catch a break.
My kids, and eventually I reached out to my two nieces and my nephew, so I was like, hey, oh my God.
We called them.
And they're crying, and
they were in tears.
we were on FaceTime.
They were so excited. They were so anxious.
Which is weird,
they were waiting
right?
for their dad.
I'm still getting used to the, like, I was FaceTime, you could actually see them, and, you know, like, that was different.
Technology. So I was like, this is so weird.
This is so different. Like, this is so weird. And I, like, this could have made my business so much easier. No, just...
Don't forget that Jay and Pete went to prison in 2000.
Did you hear that? This could have made my business so much easier. It's the way they're wired, man. It ain't necessarily their fault they're wired that way. It's just the way they're wired. The old man had them wired since 7 years old. He thinking FaceTime, how much FaceTime would have helped him in the hustle. You know what I'm saying? How much you would have known who you talking to, know who you texting with. You know what I'm saying? Without question. But it's just the way they're wired. Here he is, 12 years out the joint, still thinking about this, the way they're wired.
This could have made my business so much easier. No, just...
Don't forget that Jay and Pete went to prison in 2008, 2 years before FaceTime existed. Jay had never seen FaceTime. In fact, when they went to prison, the original iPhone had only been out for a year. The twins started their business back in the days of the Nokia 3210. Jay settled in at home. Across the country, Pete was preparing to leave.
I can't even imagine, like, the day was really coming. I had like a little homemade little calendar that I kept with me. It's just a little legal paper, like, look, I just wrote my own little lines on the dates and I crossed them out.
So when the day came, what happened?
I didn't sleep. I don't think anyone could sleep. I was like, I had my room clean. I cleaned my cell, toilet, everything, folded and everything, grabbed my old blankets and folded my mattress and left everything like the way it should be. And I think that every person who's done a long time has that little thought, like, is this really gonna happen for me? I remember that, like, it was coming at you, your wife can't be here. I think they were gonna take someone to court, whatever, like, till they'd be here at 9. I was like, 9? You know, I'm mad that my brother's gonna be out earlier because he's, you know, he was in a different time zone.
There it is.
And they called me to the office. They're like, could your wife be here any earlier? I'm like, yes.
She always late.
She can. And then she wasn't answering my call. I'm like,
what? Double up. Think of the irony in all of that, though. You know what I'm saying? You done made phone calls. You done made billboards. Y'all done flew kites to each other. Y'all done communicated through years and years of all of this. And then when it counts, when it's going down, you get that unlucky missed call that wouldn't have probably happened otherwise. That's life, though. That's life. That's hilarious.
Anyways, but like walking out on a beautiful sunny day and just early in the morning and not feeling good. I was down like 20 pounds. I was down to like 130. I had a Osama bin Laden beard. You know, we weren't allowed to get haircuts. And my hair was ridiculously long. And I remember like pulling the cart out. Like I had a couple boxes with my belongings. I don't know what to tell you, man. I know the joy I felt to see my family there. To feel like we made it.
Like, I can't tell you what it was to my kids there, you know? No, they look more beautiful than ever. It's like, I couldn't, like, I wanted to leave, like, let's go. And I remember, like, closing the door, and I was like, I jumped in the back seat, because my sister was in the front. And the kids there were just looking at me. I didn't know what to say. I was speechless, like, really speechless. That says a lot for someone like me who talks a lot.
It must have been so surreal.
It was so not real, like, to think that I would be free in America. I would be free in the USA and, like, back in the States and free.
Yeah, well, you team
Because
America.
the last time you were free in America was when you were like 22, 23, right?
I was 22.
So you'd not really been free in America in your adulthood.
Yeah, I wanted to, I can't tell you what it felt like to, I wanted to hold my kids, hold everyone. And I remember my kids being real like, Dad, like, you're really here, like, you're not in khakis.
And think about that. These guys, American guys, get into the business, become fugitives in America, go to Mexico, which has to be their second home, and then get pretty much exiled. These dudes are exiled on Main Street. These guys was basically exiled from both their countries. Over there, because the big bad wolf want to get them, and over here, because the other big bad wolf want to get them. Exile on Main Street. Men with no home, no country.
Yeah, I'm really here. I could see in their eyes that they had like a million questions. Like, it's just like, what's next for us? Like, I remember just telling them, just don't look back, man. Let's look forward to our future, you know? Not saying that we could forget that past, but let's just change the view a little bit, because it was such a long time.
And you didn't want them to literally look behind.
Yeah, man. That's 12 years is a long time. And my kids never seen me outside that prison to that day. They never see me like eat like a normal food. They never really got to see how I smell or see me without my shirt on or in my underwear like normal kids will see their father or like do something for them. My wife, just know that what she felt to see them with their father, what it meant to her too, you know?
I see Peter, he's coming out, and he has like a cart with two the prison guards. So he has a cart, like a book cart, and he has like boxes, and we were just looking at him, oh my God. But it was like almost silence in the car. Silence, like just watching him. He opens the trunk and he puts his things in there, and then he gets in the car, and it was really surreal to see him, like, just see his presence, just be in his presence. And the kids were there, and he got in the back seat, and the kids were he was just holding the kids. He didn't know, like, touching their hair, and I don't know, they were crying and then happy, and they were just overjoyed, like, just to finally have him here.
Yeah, the kids don't know what's what. They don't know nothing about no cartel. They don't know no Chapo. They don't know none of that. They're like, what? They're minding their business. So I'm sure it was a big deal for them.
I was nervous, and I mean, I haven't been this close to him in 12 years, almost 13 years. So it was really difficult for me.
To lie, y'all made a baby.
When he hugged me, I almost felt like I was trembling, like my body was a little trembling, a little nervous. I kind of avoided him.
Yeah,
like, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to wash the dishes. And I'm gonna...
I was like, what is wrong with you?
But after a while, you know, the kids wanted to have a movie night. So we laid blankets on the floor and we put a movie on. And everyone was just so happy. And still, they couldn't take their eyes off of him.
Come on, you gotta tell the funny part.
What? Oh,
like,
so we escaped.
Honestly, you know, they're young. I mean, they're old enough to like, our mom and dad gonna do something. It's funny, right?
Yeah, they're really well aware. They're really
but
smart
just
kids.
Weird, like.
And they're like, you left us. You didn't even finish the movie. But they're understanding
They're funny,
and
right?
they're funny. They're really funny kids, yeah. Really mature for their age.
I mean, well, I laugh because it's weird that they made it so awkward for us.
And then my sister-in-law was there and she was like, leave your mom and dad alone.
Yes, they're talking about the S word, sex. The last time Pete and Viv were intimate in that way was back when they were cooperating in the government offices in Chicago. Remember the 3 Bs? The first B, the baby? Whilst I was talking to Pete, he called his youngest daughter to chat about the day he came home from prison.
Hello. Hi, lovely. How are you?
Oh, wow.
I'm good. How are you? I'm good, thank you.
I was telling Charlie about.
Whew, there it is. That's heavy to hear a kid's voice after all of the shit that we've heard on this show. After all of the horrible, graphic things that we've heard on this show, to hear a baby's voice was a little shocking right now. And to hear that's, one of the baby from the 3 Bs, you know what I'm saying? And Charlie did let the cat out the bag that she spoke to some of the children on record, which is crazy. So this should be interesting.
Hello. Hi, lovely. How are you? I'm good. How are you? I'm good, thank you.
I was telling Charlie about the day I came home.
Yeah.
And I was telling her how you were just staring at us like the whole time. Your mom was avoiding me.
Yeah, I think that we were all so shocked. It was like, oh my gosh, he's out of prison. And it's funny because I remember every little sentence he said that day. Well, when he first got in the car, he didn't say anything, but he told me specifically, he put me to, he whispered in my ear, don't look back. Just keep your eyes on the road. And then when he got home, he was just mesmerized by the house, having a home. So then when he went into his room, he was he laid on the bed. And then he was just touring the house. And then when he finally ate, a good warm meal, because of COVID, he couldn't have warm meals. So he was just focusing on his food, and we didn't really eat. We were just looking at him the whole time. Just
Was I eating funny?
Yeah, you're eating good. You're eating good, I think, yeah. I just remember you being like, oh my God, this is my first meal. So my sister and I are really, really excited. We had a whole night planned out where we were watch with our favorite movies or whatever, or series, and me and my sister got all ready. And I was like, Dad, Mom, let's go. And so my sister and I were waiting on the couch for them for 5 hours. I was like, oh my, okay, let's just go to bed. I'm tired. She's like, yeah, it's alright.
They weren't coming back, shorty. They're here for the 4th B, another baby. El Padrino asked, why put the kids on? To humanize him? I wouldn't risk it. I think that's part of it, maybe. Part of it from the production side of things. Let's find a way for people to, to look at them as more than just rats, cooperators or snitches or whatever you want to call them, or cartel drug dealers. Because look, man, there's levels to this. You're going to have, the regular suburban Karen housewife that looks down on anybody that doesn't get money, you know what I'm saying, the way she would want them to get money, the unrealistic ways that she would want them to get money. They say, oh, them dirtbag drug dealers, right? That's one level of it. Then you get all the way down to dirtbag drug dealers shitting on you because now you've cooperated, so now you a rat to the lowest of the low, who they consider the lowest of the low. You a rat to them. So I'm sure they was trying to humanize him a little bit. El Padrino said I wouldn't risk it. I don't know about what kind of risk it is. I mean, it's audio. Is it intrusive to the kid? Maybe. Maybe the kid's well adjusted enough to know her situation, know her daddy's situation, and be like, let me talk about it. In a sense, as long as they ain't exploiting the children, that. I don't want to hear, Cartel Kids, the reality series. That's a whole different story. You know what I'm saying? I honestly took more a lot more from what that little girl just had to say than a lot of the shit that I've been hearing for a long time. That was insightful. You know what I'm saying? The way she saw it. That'll stick with her forever. For the rest of her life, when her daddy's dead and gone and she's a grown woman with children of her own, she's going to tell her kids, do not look back. You know what I'm saying? That is a part of her life now. No matter what they did, no matter whatever, at the end of the day, that's part of her life now. That motto, that saying, and the action of doing so. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. You could say that they just did it only to humanize them, but I think it was a kid I can trust wholeheartedly. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to something like this. So I actually enjoyed that tiny little piece right there. Chucky, they want the attention almost like 6ix9ine. There's a difference. 6ix9ine wants attention. I don't know that the twins want attention, and I don't know that they want to change your mind, but they want to get a story across, and they want to get they want something positive to come out of it. I believe that's why the podcast happened. You don't see them everywhere like you see everybody else. They're not just asking ask me anything questions like Sammy the Bull. You know what I'm saying? They're doing podcasts with 50 and working on what did Charlie say, the TV stuff and this, that. Whatever they're doing, they're going to tell a story. 6ix9ine, on the other hand, that's all attention. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. I ran it and I'm still outside. Look at me. You know, that's different. He took a hood out. You know what I'm saying? He used the hood, took him out. Now he walk around through there. He's looking for attention. He not trying to do shit. He not selling his movie. Who wants to buy the 6ix9ine movie? I don't know. I don't see it. Upper echelon. I think it's great for people to hear how the decisions of their parents affect them. Hopefully before it's too late. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, and not only them, other kids, you know, here, or other kids that can relate to the situation. There's a lot of kids who got parents in jail. There's a lot of kids who suffer the bullying of the things that their parents did, the decisions that their parents made, and we don't hear them. We deaf to them. We hear ourselves, we hear our opinions, but we don't hear the kids. So I agree. That was very insightful. I thought it was done tastefully also. Once I start hearing, what's her face, Cartel Charlie, if she starts kind of like prodding at the kids for information, see, Shorty right here, Shorty felt happy to tell her story. But once you start poking for information, now that's a whole different story.
After spending so much time with the Flores family, I felt like I'd gotten to know them pretty well. We had spoken about so much and delved into their deepest emotions together. Some of the things we got into and have shared on this podcast, they'd never talked about before. By this point, I got to know the children quite well too. I was struck by the fact that, despite everything, they were also close. And the way the kids were with their fathers, and vice versa, you'd never really have known that they'd been in prison the majority of their children's lives.
I would take the children to go see Peter at least twice a year over the years, just so that way he was always a part of our children's lives, and vice versa when it comes to Peter's children, because I think Jay and Peter have this connection to where they almost feel like these are all of their kids, all of their children together. One family. And when I would see Peter, it was like almost shocking to me, because I'd sit there and watch him with Viv and watch him with the kids. And I felt like I was almost looking in from a lens, which was so weird, because I was just seeing me and Jay and the way that Jay would interact with me and the way he would interact with our children. And it was everything when it comes to body gestures, when it comes to body language, when it comes to body movement, when it comes to conversations, when it came to everything. And I used to come back and tell Jay, like, oh my God, this is so crazy. I feel like I'm looking at our family, like watching from a camera. And it was just like unreal to see.
Over the 12 years that Pete and Jay were in prison, the family, including the kids, spent nearly every weekend visiting them, with the exception of COVID, and that's only because they weren't physically allowed to visit. And of course, the few months in a safe house leading up to their sentencing. There are fathers that aren't in prison that see their children less.
Some of y'all in the chat over here, y'all all seeing y'all kids. Y'all better go see y'all kids, man. Cut the shit.
Because the twins were moved around the country so much, their families also had to move to be with them. This meant the kids were constantly changing schools, though it wasn't like they were able to have close friends anyway. The kids had to hide their own identities. They were never allowed to talk about their family, where they were from, or reveal anything about their backgrounds. The kids had to be as hypervigilant as their parents. Even now that Jay and Pete are out of prison, the children are still hypervigilant about their own identities being revealed and wake up every morning wondering if their fathers are going to get taken away from them again. I sat down with all the children to understand what it was like for them. This is Pete's daughter again, who you just heard on the phone.
It was like every single holiday, a birthday, that's all I wanted. It's for my dad. Come home. My dad would always he always tried to be honest with us. I remember when we were I think 4 years old, I was at school and I had a friend and I told her that my dad was in a cage. I was really curious about everything because as much as my dad tried to explain everything to us and what he did, I still couldn't understand it. So I remember Googling stuff and me just reading it. It just all came together, about his whole life.
That's it. You can't escape that Google. That Google is on you, boy. That Google is not. You could tell your kids back in the day. You could lie to your kids, but that Google, they were like, ding, 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 ding. Now they know everything about you, and now you got a problem. I wonder how much their kids really know. I wonder how much their kids know about all of it. Probably doesn't even matter to them at this point. Listen, man, my niece asks me a question about what's this, that. I throw her a bullshit answer. I just did myself a disservice because she going to Google.
I think I was scared to know because I did 1,152 days with him.
1,152 days
in prison. Yes. When he told me, I think I started to think more, and I was why would you do that? You didn't think about us. I think I became a little more I was upset. And then having to go home, and then going home to have to put on this costume, where your home life is. No one knew anything about my home life, at school, no one knew. It was just my mom and my brother, and that's all. So it was just having to deal with keeping that secret in from everybody.
Yo, very well-spoken young lady, very in tune with how she feels, very articulate, you know what I'm saying? And it makes you wonder, how much of this to the twins and to the wives is this. I don't know if they, see therapists or talk to therapists, but how much of unpacking all of this is part of the therapy, you know what I'm saying? Because there's no way that they got all different kind of post-traumatic stress disorders, you know what I'm saying? A lot of us do. A lot of us buried enough just to have that, you know what I'm saying? But very well-adjusted young lady, and again, this unravels and this unfolds and it comes out, doesn't stay locked away, doesn't stay unsaid. They get to say it to each other, in front of each other. The parents get to know exactly what the child's feeling so that they can address those things up close and personal. I'm not mad at it at all. Like I said, once it becomes an exploitation thing, and now there's a reality series, and Pete and Jay's kids are beefing with El Mini League's kids, or this fool or that fool. Now that's when it becomes exploitation. It's a whole other thing.
It's not just their fathers that the kids are worried about. It's their mothers too. Within 6 months of Pete and Jay getting out of prison, SWAT teams surrounded each of their houses in the early hours of the morning and arrested Val and Viv on money laundering charges.
Dang.
When I got indicted,
no rest.
Me and Viviana, I felt like we knew it was coming. We told our children that the feds would come one day and they'd come into the house. and they would possibly take us and arrest us and put us in prison. That was the hardest thing I think we ever had to do.
The kids were all home when their mothers were arrested. We'll get to how it all unfolded in the next episode.
I remember just like waking up in the morning, my dad being like, gotta get up. And then they put her in handcuffs and we went in the car, and then I just remember, so I was like kind of like, I didn't comprehend it yet. I think I was in shock because I didn't think that it would happen. And I remember my dad just like breaking down. And so my mom told me before she left, just like, stay strong. I got up and I was like, I woke my brother up and I just told him, and then I walked out of the room and I just started cleaning and cooking for everybody, trying to make everything as normal as possible.
You know, there's no time to look back when the future's still a pain in the ass. You know what I'm saying? When tomorrow's a problem. Unbelievable story. It doesn't get close to easing up. I told you they front-ended this season with a bunch of slow, you know, and this is what the courthouse looked like, and there was a staircase, and to the left of the staircase there was 100 cops, and to the right there was reporters, and to the left there was sucias, and it's like, yo, the last couple of episodes they've been getting to the gusto. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode as well. We had the sickness portion of it, where the feds just tried to kill Jay, basically, or the COs tried to kill Jay, basically. He did 56 days in the hospital and numerous surgeries. That's a lot. The ladies, this is not stereotypical. You know, sometimes y'all are late, okay? Val was late that day, all right? But she had a good excuse. She done smashed her ankle up again. It happens. The kids, when Charlie said it on the Johnny Mitchell podcast, I didn't know how I felt about it. I was like, do we even want to hear from the kids? Because, like, what do you know about this situation? You know how it affected you, yes, but, you know, why do we have to talk to the kids? But I don't think they were, I don't know that they were exploiting their kids. It didn't get there yet. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it plans to, but they're telling their story. It's part of their story. We can't want what we want for the story when it's their story. And it's not just Jay and Peter's story. It's not just Vivi and Val's story. It's that little girl's story. It's the rest of the kids' story. And if they feel like speaking about them, then they have every right. Is it dangerous? Maybe. Maybe this should be as far as it goes. I like the way it was handled. I didn't hear her poking at her. They let the girl speak. They asked for clarification when they needed it, and that was cool, you know what I'm saying? Even in episode 9, the next episode that comes next week, you're going to get to hear from a kid's point of view what it's like for her parents to get raided. That's a different look right there, you know? A lot of kids don't know, and a lot of parents don't know who haven't been raided, how it affects a kid. So maybe something like that will affect somebody and say, yeah, man, I can't be in this business because I can't let this happen to my kid. If that story's out there, then that's cool. There's something positive coming out of that. So, yeah, I thought she was going to exploit them a little bit, but I ain't seen it. But, again, if we see them, you know, beefing with Mayo's grandkids on a reality show, that's a problem. Think Like a Kingpin in the chat said, man, it's about sharing the point of view from an innocent kid and letting the audience know how it affects the kid. Absolutely. And you heard it. That little girl ain't here for no clout. She ain't sitting here telling y'all a story from a lying place. I believe the shorty before I believe the adults. All adults I take with a grain of salt. Every last one that exists, I take with a grain of salt. The kids, even though there's lying-ass kids, not when it's like that, she don't know how to cover that up. It's her life. It's her experience. Did they put the shorties there to humanize them? That's probably part of it. You know what I'm saying? Do they need some humanizing? Production is always going to say that. Do they care to be humanized? I don't know. Probably not. It's been a long time. They did their thing. They still fighting for their family to survive. But I wanted to see if they was going to exploit the shorty. I ain't hear no exploitation. Shorty told her story, how she felt. Going through a story like that, I think had they not had each other to lean on, a couple of them might have ended themselves a long time ago. Even going through hell, to have a support system that's still gonna be there tomorrow, that probably makes all the difference in the world. When you got as much money as they were making, they were targets before they cooperated. That type of shit just doesn't. That ain't gonna change after you cooperate. You still a wanted man. You was always a wanted man. It is what it is. Here we are, episode 9, Life After Prison. Charlie sits down with the children to get their perspective. Jay discusses adjusting to life on the outside. Within months of the twins being released, their wives, Val and Viv, are arrested on money laundering charge. So within months of the twins being released. So that means they was on their ass. There hasn't been a moment of the government got what they wanted and then moved on with their life. Nah. They've been on a hunt for these people from the beginning, and it don't stop. And with that said, let's get into this episode 9, Life After Prison. They're going to talk to the kids. Are they trying to humanize the twins? I'm sure production has that in mind, but kids are part of it. Try not to vilify the children, because the children, they don't know no better. You know, they know what they know. They know what they're allowed to know and what they're able to figure out. Let's get to it. Life After Prison.
I feel like people, when their fathers are in prison, like, give them that respect or anything. But I just feel like my dad is a good person, and I get a lot of my inspiration from him. Because, like, he's a good father, you know?
At 40 years old, Jay and Peter were now free men in the U.S., something they hadn't been since they escaped to Mexico as fugitives nearly 20 years before. Finally, they were united with their families and could start a new life. But as seems to be the case with the twins, the consequences of their decision are always waiting around the corner. Just as Jay and Peter were starting to get used to another version of their life, everything changed again.
Even though the El Chapo case was well and truly done, the government hadn't forgotten about the Flores family. In April of 2021, the federal government brought criminal charges against Val and Viv for money laundering.
SWAT teams arrived at their home, searching the house, and took Val and Viv away. They were so aggressive, they even cuffed some of the children.
Yo, y'all wild and cuffing children and shit like that. Here's what's crazy, that you would think the government's like, yo, these dudes gave us, how Yayo was saying, El Chapo. You know what I'm saying? They gave us El Chapo. They did this for us. They did that for us. We didn't even have to help them. They had to go videotape or audio tape the calls themselves. They looked out for us. We should, look out for them. Nah, man, government been on top of their heads since they picked them up. That's an abusive relationship right there.
With the permission of their parents and many conversations over the phone with the kids, I asked if they wanted to share what things had been like for them on tape. I got them all together and we sat on the floor and started talking.
All right, let's hope you didn't exploit them, Charlie. We're watching you.
Have you ever kind of sat and spoke like this before all together? No.
Do you want to talk about this? I think for me, just especially with like everything that happened recently, it's kind of like a PTSD moment. I didn't want them to like see me panic and be scared. And so I was just trying to be like, everything's gonna be okay, you know? It was just really difficult.
They just like came in, handcuffed everybody, but me and her, and she's been through this before. And so I just kind of try to listen to her. So it was hard for me because I never seen my mom be like treated like that.
Final answer, I'm going to blame the production for the audio issues on this show. I'm going to blame the production. I'm going to blame the mixer, whoever mixed the audio, whatever you recorded with, whoever mixed it, like, it's just horrible. It ain't just the twins. It ain't just the girls. It's the kids too, and it's not the kids' fault. It's the production's fault.
It was hard for me because I never seen my mom be like treated like that.
It was hard for him because he never got to see his mom treated like that.
Yeah. And especially my dad being handcuffed, I just didn't see it. I think I'll see that again.
Dad being handcuffed, you didn't think he'd see that again?
And I just like got me scared. It reminded me of like when he was in a visit, always coming out being handcuffed.
That's Pete's children talking. Their son, the one
That's what he said. It reminded him of a visit his father always come out handcuffed.
One who was born the first year Pete was in prison, and the youngest daughter, who you heard in the last episode, as well as Pete's oldest. She lived with Pete and Viv on and off in Mexico. Unlike the other children, she knew some of what their life was like before prison. We won't name any of the children or give any details about them so as to protect their identities. We'll pick back up with Pete and Viv's son and youngest daughter, talking about what it was like to visit their dad in prison.
Was he always handcuffed when you visited?
Well, like when they opened the door, they would take it off right there.
There's specific procedures, like they made this rule where we could only hug for like 30 seconds, and then we gotta stay like far apart from each other. So it'd be on the back of the wall, and then we would be more out towards him because it's like safety issues. He couldn't go to the vending machines because remember it's like a box room with 2 vending machines and a couple chairs and probably like 3 tables and then the guard. So they wouldn't be able to go by the vending machine or by the microwave and then it was just like, it didn't feel like, because going, like, we went to a lot of visiting rooms and I remember that one that was just like, I was so uncomfortable the whole time to go visit him. And I remember he didn't have his uniform on like this one day, and I never saw him like with his uniform on, and he was just wearing a white plain t-shirt and his gray sweats, and I remember being like, oh my gosh, yeah, that was just like our normal. Like we had to live with these specific procedures of taking off our shoes, hair, our bows in our hair, putting up in the little box.
It's a lot for a kid. Kid goes to visit a parent in prison, just want to hug them, and you got to go through all these procedures and take the barrettes out your hair and have all your bags searched and your pockets emptied and this, that, and the other. But it is what it is. Kids do time with their parents. A lot of parents don't seem to notice.
I used to think I was like the luckiest person because I never had to take my shoes off. I think it was because I was probably youngest, so I never had to take them off and put them back on. But as I got older, I had to do it.
I remember like every weekend the guards would be like, we'll see you next weekend, and we'll make sure to remind them to fill up the vending machines.
I feel like a lot of time my dad would try to fit in like months of parenting into like a weekend visit for like 8 hours and less than that. And so a lot of the time I felt like it was just like a constant like lecture, and it was just like constant. But like in real life he was just trying to like make up.
What the? But I'm about to put on some headphones. That's how bad to me this audio is. I'm hoping y'all could hear it.
Felt like it was just like a constant like lecture, and it was just like constant. But like in real life he was just trying to like
basically a long preparation phase for a quick visitation phase.
I think with us too, I think with Val and I think that Peter and Junior are really guilty of just trying to just teach us something, just or make us feel better, and being these positive people in our lives, even though kind of everything is crumbling, you know, right under us. But, you know, just trying to be that positive reinforcement in our lives, even though they're sitting there in prison. And I think that's where we see that the decision that they made, they went in there with their whole hearts, and they knew that this was going to be the best thing for us. So
I remember
it's the oldest.
I would write stuff down in my school notebook to, if I thought about something to tell my dad, then I would like rip it out of my notebook and I would bring it to go see him, because I was like, because then I would forget.
Pete's daughter had so much to talk to her dad about that she kept a list. She wrote everything down so that she wouldn't forget. She'd have to wait a whole week between visits, and even though Pete was able to call home during the week, he only had a 300-minute phone allowance each month.
If I remember something on Monday, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's not gonna have enough minutes to talk about this conversation. Because we got only 300 minutes each month. Especially in like November's, it would be hard because all my siblings' birthdays were in November. So then it would be like, 5 minutes each week? Yeah, it would be like at least 5 minutes each week.
300 minutes sounds like a lot, but when you break it down, it's 69 minutes a week. That's less than 10 minutes a day. And that time has to be split between the entire family. To make it even harder, standard policy in federal US prisons limits phone calls to a maximum of 15 minutes at a time, and you have to wait at least an hour between calls.
I remember my dad would say, "I'm going to give you an off day." I was like, what is that? Because I knew that he felt guilty because we were there every single weekend. But then I remember I was like, no, I want to go and see you. Like, I would skip every friend's birthday party and be like, no, I'm sorry, I can't. Or I would skip my sports or my dance events because I'm like, no, I'm going to go see my dad. Like, this is my time. And as much as, like, you know how, like, people say, like, self-care night or, like, alone time? Like, him just talking to us and playing, like, with us or, like, watching movies or anything was just, like, a nice unload of, like, the whole week. Because the family felt complete every time we sat down together. And even though it wasn't the way that we wanted to be together, we were still together. It was always, like, a weird transition to go from, like, being with our mom, like, in a completely different place, and, like, going to see my dad. And it was, like, always, like, really living, like, two separate worlds. And I think sometimes, especially as we were getting older, it was a lot harder because we were, like, oh, like, we have friends. Like, we want to, like, do things. And it was, like, but we had to be there, like, with our dad. And so I think that battle of, like, yeah, I still choose to come. And I remember my mom, she's like, you are going to see your dad. That's your dad. And, like, you have to, like, spend time with, like, this, like, his time with you guys.
Having friends was a continuous problem. There was always a risk that through the children, the twins' identity and location could be exposed. Pete's youngest daughter was once forced to leave her school almost immediately when the family found out that her friend's dad worked as one of Pete's prison guards. The kids could never get too close to anyone.
I would tell people, like, I moved from somewhere, and they'll be like, why? I don't know, my parents are very adventurous, you know? And then when I said that I'm, like, born there, they're like, how? Why are you here then? Oh, then I have to, like, figure out something. I had this, like, responsibility to, like, keep this secret. I thought when I was there, I was, like, protecting my family. Something bad would, like, happen. And so it was always, like, a...
Did you feel you had to lie a lot?
Yeah.
And, like, hide your life? Yeah.
Yes.
That's a lot for a shorty. And, you know, you kind of are protecting your family, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't a regular family. This was a family in the crosshairs, and a lot of people's crosshairs.
In your head, you feel that you had to lie?
Yeah, I just remember lying a lot at school. They were like, where's your dad? I'm like, he's doing work in California. Or, like some
There's
state.
always, like, a story to be told. I remember we were in a store, and this guy came up to us and asked us a question randomly. He's like, where's your dad? And I would be like, he's in New York right now. He's a construction worker, and just, yeah, that's where he is. You know, I always get nervous. We always had to get, like, we had to make sure that our stories kind of, like, connect. Because if one said something different, we all had to make sure that it matches, because they'll get, like, suspicious. I would always get nervous if I said, like, my dad lived somewhere, and then someone happened to have lived somewhere at some point in their lives, and they asked me about it, and I'd be like, oh, like, I actually have no idea what the neighborhood is called.
I think that when we switched schools, it was difficult in some way, but you couldn't find a real friend because you're gonna keep switching. So you're never gonna find that real friend.
I feel like even if we did have friends and we created this friendship, a part of me knew that if we're gonna have to, like, ghost them somehow, some way. I think it was like that for, like, all of us. Like, we all were like, I would hate talking to parents. Even now, I hate talking to parents. They just ask too many questions.
My old school, I was there for like the long time. And then when we had to leave, I just like didn't feel like going, because I've changed schools I think 4 times already. I just don't feel like doing that again.
That's Jay's youngest son. Jay and Val have 2 sons, and the youngest was less than 2 months old when Jay went into prison. The other just a toddler.
Hey, baby, the kids are right here playing, my love.
You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. This call is from an inmate at a federal prison.
So Daddy, thank you for your book. Look at some of your book. Thank you.
Baby?
Hey, love,
Baby.
how are you?
Hi, baby. My babies are there?
Yeah, hold on. He wants to tell you something, okay? Hold on. Thank you.
You're welcome, Daddy. How are you, mijo?
I'm seeing on the book.
Yeah? Mijo, how's school, Daddy? You like school?
Okay.
Daddy?
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you. I miss you, Dad.
Hello?
Baby?
What, baby?
He's funny, love. He sounds so good, love.
I know. Oh, you okay? Say hi, Daddy. Come here. Come here. Hi, Daddy. Hi, Daddy. Say hi, Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Hi, Daddy. Hi, baby. I love you.
Oh, yeah.
Love you, Dad.
Jay had a sound of desperation in his voice right there to talk to his family. It's very clear that with these twins, their family's extremely important, because that was a sound of desperation getting on the phone with his child. Yeah, I mean, this has been a very soft season. Not much criminality involved in this season. A lot of heartwarming, cinnamon toast crunchish, warm morning type vibes in this season. They haven't given me much to talk shit about this season. This is my biggest complaint, you know what I'm saying, to the production. Y'all ain't give me enough to be like, who does that type of shit? Huh? Nah, it's been all unicorns and cotton candy.
Jay's youngest didn't even know his own father's real name until he got out of prison. When prison officers would use Jay's initials MF, Margarito Flores, his youngest had no idea what they meant.
Yeah, I remember the officer would say, like when we would enter the prison, they would say his name. I was like, why is it say MF? I was really confused. And he was like, it's just a name that they gave me when I entered. So I just didn't really think about that. I just remember him telling me that he was gonna come home, and I didn't really understand. So I was kind of just like listening in shock.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially because you'd only known.
Yeah, I only knew him from there, from the visit, so.
What was it like when he actually was it strange?
Yeah,
you weren't used to that, right?
I just felt like really different.
Yeah, in what way?
It's just like a way different environment and different people, and him just being able to like hug you or like just like be with you.
It was a big adjustment when the twins came home. Jay's youngest son had never known his dad outside of prison. Neither had Pete's youngest son and daughter.
When he came home, like, I remember him just like, he was like mesmerized by everything. And like, I was teaching him how to use a phone and like how to do this, you know. And I was so like shocked that he was home that I would just want to like, I would look at him. I couldn't believe that he was home. I just like, remember him sitting on the couch and I was like, it's so weird. That's just not normal. Or like he came and said goodnight, and I just got like so freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh. I remember like when he first came home, I spent months just like wanting to like be there and like followed him around, like doing anything.
We got a haircut together at a bike shop. Bikes were my dad's favorite thing. Now every day, like I go downstairs and then I see my dad with his coffee, dark coffee, his daily devotional and his Bible, with his phone and his pajamas because it's in the morning. So it's crazy. I get to wake up to that now.
Different
I just
world,
feel like
kid.
my dad did like such a great job. Even like in a small visiting room being watched by a guard. My mom and dad put a lot of time into us, and so does my Theo and my aunt. They put a lot of time into their kids. That's like a resemblance to this family and how good of parents they are.
I think it was a good thing that they kept their children in constant communication with each other. You know what I'm saying? Those kids needed each other in that situation. For whatever may transpire during the story between Jay and Val and Pete and Vivi and the drama about this, that, and the other, their kids have a reverence for one another. For their Theo, for their Tia, for their cousins. That's dope.
They could put the most important things aside, but their kids are just their main part to their family.
I think it's also actually a lot about you all sat here, because I think your parents have done a great job, but it says a lot about you too. It's not just your parents, it's
They got in the game for themselves. They got out the game for their kids.
what's inside you too. The fact that you can sit and talk like this, and it's like really mature.
Yeah, I think that like it's not like we shouldn't forget about going to visit our parents every weekend, and it's something that we should continue to remember because it was part of our childhood, and there are a lot of like life lessons and memories and experiences that, although it wasn't in the best environment, it was still important. There's a lot of parents out there who we probably were able to see our dads more than other kids, and we were lucky enough to have like the experiences we had because we still had great times. Like we would watch movies, we would play board games, and we would talk about like TV shows or like music and what songs we were listening to, and so, or like how our school day was. And we should be thankful that we were able to have those because a lot of other children don't.
I find it
Now, who knows if it's for the cameras or the microphones, but well-adjusted, grateful, humble children.
amazing that you're so like grateful for the, you know, the way you're talking is like, you know, even what you just said, you're like, we're blessed to have that. Is there any part of you, any of you, do you feel angry at all? And I think anger's okay, you know, it's not a bad thing. You know, I just wonder if any of you feel anger at all.
I just like, I'm not angry with my dad ever did in his past, but I just feel like I was angry for the time. But I feel like every moment was just like a blessing. But I would never be angry at my dad for something like that.
How about you?
I think during the time and during all those years I was angry, and like I remember I would cry every time, like every Sunday after we would have to leave. But like now reflecting back on it, I'm thankful because like it could be way worse. We have such a like great connection to our parents, and we have so much love for each other, and I'm just thankful for all that.
Yeah, I think like growing up, like there probably was like a point where like, I don't know, like I feel like when I was younger, I learned about everything. It was kind of like, oh, why would they do that? And I didn't really like understand at first, and like sometimes I would be like angry, but then I would just feel like at least I have them, and then it's just really changed the anger into like you're grateful that like at least like they're here.
Are you glad they actually did what they did? Are you glad that they did go to prison so that they don't live like what you've heard?
Yeah, like sometimes I think like if they didn't, like we all couldn't be here, and it's just like that really like changes it.
Even they know if their parents didn't do what they did, they probably all wouldn't be there. Maybe none of them would be there.
Or if like they don't turn themselves in and they have to like be able, the police have to go get them and they get caught one time, and for that it's just like life probably. So
You'd always live in that fear.
yeah.
Even though the twins are home, the kids have lived in fight and flight their whole lives, always on edge, in constant stress and fear. Living in this heightened state of trauma isn't something that just goes away overnight.
It was like a rush panic, and you just hear like the words like they're coming.
You ever like kind of almost listen out for sounds?
Even like a ring on the doorbell. And I like have gone to like friends' house, like someone rings the doorbell, and they just like walk up and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Aren't you gonna hide? They're like,
I
why?
remember-
Like, who's here?
I remember us just like, so we'll be eating at dinner at our table or like just being anywhere in the house, and I hear a doorbell, and my mom and my dad would just like just don't go towards the door, just hide, and then they'll go look and see if it was anyone. And yeah, when I would go to my friend's house and someone ring the door, they just go straight up and just open it. I was like, I was so confused.
Even if like you're in the car, you see someone like a car following you for too long.
So like when my dad was in prison, when my mom would hear a doorbell, all three of us would just look at each other, and then we'll go, and me and my sister would go, and my mom would open it, and it would end up being like a package delivered. And it's crazy because like we had to live through that.
A lot of tension. They had a lot of tension coming up.
Anxiety.
I feel like it kind of still ruins my relationship with like my friends now, because I can't like have them come over and be like, I have to like tell my parents like, you know, my friend's coming over, what's your name gonna be, and you know, like just like kind of like stay on like just don't talk about anything about our life.
I feel like it definitely separated you from like getting super close to anyone because like there's always a part that like you couldn't share. So I think that's why we're so close, like as cousins.
Here's the thing too, they only have their perspective. We know more as adults about their parents' case really than they do. We don't know their perspective they have. But as they get older, they're going to learn more about this story, the ins and outs of it. You know what I'm saying? If they care to. You know what I mean? They probably don't give a shit by that point. Like, listen, I got my family, who cares?
And siblings.
I think after everything that we've been through, we still have
Jeter
like,
Hassad
this
sent $1.99 on YouTube. Shout to
just
Chiel and the OGs of this channel.
everything, and a part of me, it feels like I'm a little prepared of if anything does happen again. But them being home, it's just like a little more like you gotta like calm down a little, you know? And I think my dad being home, I could like, you know, go to sleep at night knowing that like I'm safe with him, and I could go to sleep knowing that my mom's asleep and that she's okay because he's home.
As for the twins, coming out of prison was a fresh start. Finally, they could be with their wives, their children, and each other. No more yelling through doors, no more communicating through wives, no more 15-minute phone calls and visits monitored by guards. No more shackles. They were free.
What was it like when you first saw Pete out of prison? What was the moment?
Well, we had spent so much time apart that I was so nervous. It was emotional for sure.
What kind of emotions?
Just like every type of like sadness, happiness at the same time. I'm still a little bit shocked at the fact that we were actually back together again. It also was, I felt like there was a void for sure. And I think that hurt. The fact that, you know, I'm seeing my brother and I'm like, everything's still the same, but we're just a little bit different now. You know, 12 years, I left him when I was 28. You know, now I'm 40.
It's like a lifetime, 28 and 40.
And I have those same memories, those same thoughts, but I know that we lived two different lives, and now we're not seeing things the same. You know, we've been through different situations, and like even the fact that he has a son now, I mean, right? That he was a part of it, and that I wasn't. You know, I got to see my nephew, but even that part, right? Where just different things that could feel the world for sure, and that hurt me. It's something I'm never going to get back.
$9.99 on YouTube.
Do you think you just both really changed?
I think as you get older, everyone changes. Yeah. And
and as you're growing apart, you know, you guys, when you guys were growing in unison as a team. Once they separated you guys, now you're going into your own man. Not the mastermind or the third, you know, person, which is the two of you together, which is its own entity. Now y'all was growing by yourselves.
Simple, like, well, it's not simple. I think like when you have a life partner, right, and you're growing old together, you guys are changing. And sometimes I think that could be a little bit hard. I realized that today, like with my brother, because if you're growing together, you're growing together. You know, you guys are getting older, and you know things change, right? If your life partner is with you, then they get it. But if they're not, now you're not the same person anymore. That's kind of hard to adjust, especially if you have expectations or you know people to be a certain way. And I always say, like, I'm not the same person I went in prison. If I was, then I failed. I feel like I'm more mature. I think I'm a better man overall.
I'm definitely a lot wiser. Jay has he's grown into like everything a woman could possibly want in a man. I think when it comes to a husband, when it comes to a father, when it comes to a best friend, he's matured so much, and He's learned, like he said, always through his hardships and always through struggles. I love the person that he is today, and I love the person he was yesterday, but there's just something so different about him. And when Jay and Peter saw each other for the first time, I was there, and it was emotional for everybody, including our children, because we're such a close-knit family.
Yeah.
But they were like kind of like looking at each other across the room at times, and I would catch them strangely like looking at each other and just trying to figure each other out.
So
Do you recall that?
Yes, I do recall that looking, because I saw my brother in Zoom, and of course, anyone that does know us, in between me being home, there's a lot of arguments. A lot of arguments. That didn't change, but seeing there was like almost like I'm seeing him be a father and a husband again, like something I haven't saw. And in a way, kind of seeing myself, and it was kind of like, wow, a good feeling. Like I got to see this again. I got to see my brother. I got to see myself. You know, my kids, they don't even remember what it was like to see me and my brother together. So it was, for my baby, it was a shocker. Like, he was like, wow, you guys are twins, you know?
Yeah, because we've never seen you two together. What was the first thing you did when you saw each other?
So he was coming through the door. And first the kids came. And I knew that he was kind of lagging behind because he was nervous. So the kids ran in and like saw me and were like, oh my God. And he was like making small steps, almost like if you're gonna see your wedding bride right for the first time. That nervousness, that butterflies in your stomach, he looked different to me. I probably looked different to him as well, right? And like we didn't say much. We whispered in each other's ear, like, I love you, I think, like, and we just hugged each other tight and didn't say nothing but just cried and stood there. It was quiet and I could hear everyone else being emotional. And I remember telling, like, just looking around, looking at everybody in tears and thinking, wow, you know, all the kids were crying, and our family that was there, it was like, it was surreal, like, to be able to hold them again and after all we've been through. And it's like, this is the moment we waited for, right? For such a long time. And it was a feeling of fulfillment as well. Like,
that you made it.
For sure, that we made it, that we were just there. It lasted for like a long time, just being there with them and just, you know, it was emotional.
Life after prison wasn't as simple as just picking up where they left off. At sentencing, Judge Ruben Castillo said that the twins would always have a life sentence, that there wouldn't be a day that goes by that they wouldn't have to look over their shoulder. But it's not only the danger of if the cartel will come for them that makes adjusting to life after prison a challenge. Jay and Pete had to reinvent themselves once again. What does a normal life look like for people that have a past like the twins?
So it's weird, even though I'm living this normal life, I can't have normal friends, I can't do normal things.
I think that a lot of people that are normal, they just want to know your story. They want to know, like, everything about you.
It makes it a little bit hard. Like, if I didn't know them before, it's just like...
What do you say if
Why
somebody
talk
says...
to them now? If you didn't know them before, you know what I'm saying? Like, why talk to them now?
What do you do? Because that's a real common question.
Mind your
right
business.
now, I have a job, so right now, this is what I do. And
what people say.
And that profession is going to be like, oh, this is what I do. And like, oh, okay.
What brought you here?
So I have a script where I say, my wife's family lives here.
What did you used to do?
And where do they live? And who are they? And they mind your business. Mind your business. People ask too many questions.
Real estate. So I'm not from here. Like, yeah, I just, you know, my wife's family, we just moved here.
Yeah. It must be hard because you've got to constantly edit yourself.
I guess people can't even imagine the afterlife, right? And I heard even regular people who've been to prison kind of shy away from saying those things. And where you been for the last 10 years? Like, what you been doing? And it's like, wow. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is say, I was in prison.
Jay told me this great story about the first time he went to a bar since coming out of prison. He was with his nephew, his older brother Armando's son.
So it was a new experience for me. And we go to this bar, a bunch of young kids, you know, probably younger than 21, college kids. So I'm like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm a chaperone, so I'm like, just trying to fit in. And I look and I see that there's like these 3 guys. And I'm like, oh my God. They've been to prison. I could tell.
How?
Just their demeanor kind of stiff, kind of like they don't belong there. They're like in the young crowd. So I'm saying that gap between, you know, they're going back to what they missed in my head. And I told my nephew, I said, wow, look at those guys, you know, they're convicts. And he's like, get out of here. Why do you say that? And I was like, I could tell just by the demeanor. And he was like, no. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, how would we know? I said, oh, easy. I said, can I have 3 beers? Then they're standing there and I tap them. I said, excuse me. I said, how long you been home? And he's like, excuse me? I said, how long you been home? He said, is that noticeable? I said, yeah. He said, I've been home for a year. He's been home for 8 months, and he's been home for a month. And I said, yeah, I could tell. He's like, wow, how do you know? I said, experience. And he's like, wow, like, you're just making me see something. And I just ended up starting to talk to him, and I called my nephew over. I said, hey, you know, this is so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. They just came home. And he's like, well, Uncle, how'd you know? And I said, it's just out of experience, but just tell me one thing. Do I seem off to you? He's like,
you're not going to get that from your nephew. You're only going to get that from them 3 guys. Your nephew ain't going to know the difference.
He's like, no, not at all. I was like, okay, great. Thank you. I'm doing good then. You know, because that was one of the things we talked about the most is, was I going to be able to like just fit in again
and not feel uncomfortable or awkward or feel like you couldn't, you know, keep up with like what's happening.
So I would read a lot. Like I would know how to like use certain electronics through watching Wired. You know, I would read Wired or like these tech TV shows or whatever the case is. And sometimes I would be like, I'm having trouble. And I'll be like, oh, you could do this. Like, how the fuck do you know?
Did you have access to information? Like, did you know what was going on?
Well, thanks to my wife. Yeah. I would literally, I had 80 subscriptions for a magazine.
For magazines, yeah.
And 80 subscriptions for magazines.
And I had like 6 of the major newspapers.
The New York Post,
Chicago Tribune, Chicago Sun-Times, New York Daily News, and just I would get all these newspapers. So I would look at everything, especially, you know, it helped when I was locked down. It kept me.
Yeah, and he would even like.
Actually, to this day, if you look at my phone, I actually try to keep up with all those magazines that I.
Do you?
Yeah. Look.
Cosmopolitan.
Yeah. So I mean, this is like I sign up and if you look at my magazines.
Vogue, Esquire, Newsweek, Forbes, Rolling Stone, Fortune, Motor Trend, New York Magazine, New Yorker, Bloomberg Businessweek, Wired, US Week, Billboard, Car and Driver, Fast Company, Elle, Vanity Fair, People, New York City Live.
I never had a normal life. So people don't understand, like, I never had a bank account. I had money, probably didn't fit in the bank, but I never had a bank account. So getting used to these things and like, you know, I was able to take my kids to school. With them, I attended, you know, my first parent-teacher conferences. And I'll tell you, as intelligent as I think that I was or what other people might think, I have no knowledge of what to do or how to act or how to be. Because I'm so experienced with so many things in life, but except for the simple things that people might take for granted on an everyday basis. Taking your kids to school, like going to the bank or how things work. I mean, I practice sending emails to teachers. I'm scared of the things you do every day. She made me take the kids to the doctors by myself. I called her.
Booster shot.
I called her 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
you got this.
You got this. She sent me to the bank one time by myself.
Panic. Like, wait, what?
What?
What do I do? What do
I can't say no to her because I'm like, I know this is a test. I know she's preparing me and I don't want to let her down. And I'm learning still, you know. I know I have a lot of cleaning to do and keeping things in order. Because I do ask her, like, how important, you know, I might think, how important is this to you? And she'll be like, everything's real important, right? But like, how important is it for the kids' clothes to be ironed all the time?
I think so.
Even if it's like basketball clothes, it's like important. So we have those conversations and it's like, I realize what it took to be by herself for all those years. I see it.
You know, unfortunately, for a little while, y'all gonna understand that a whole lot better than you did before. You're gonna understand what it's like to be alone with them in this time that Viv and Val are going to prison. It's not 12 years, but it's a little time for you guys to figure out, you know, as much as you appreciate them now, you're gonna appreciate them a whole lot more because now you playing both roles. The tides have turned and the roles have reversed.
And people might think, wow, it's obvious. It's the things that we take for granted every day that people don't realize that if you're able to take your kids to school or you're able to come home a little early one day and pick them up and surprise them, those things matter because there's plenty of people around the world that don't get that chance.
Just as Jay and Pete were starting to get used to yet another new version of their life, everything changed again.
When the feds came to the house again, for me and for Viviana, it was scary. And I think that the way that they came to the house was very disturbing.
Bullies, ganga.
When I seen them surround my house and they came in with the SWAT team and army garb and shields and helmets and AR-15s, I couldn't believe that they came in. They, you know, were ready to knock the door down. When I seen them coming, they were like just holding each other's shoulder, and it looked like a bunch of soldiers in front of my house, like if my kids are playing Call of Duty.
No, they gas themselves up. The police gas themselves up. They'd be like, yo, we got to spend the budget on all of this tech and all of these tanks and all this body armor and all they think they're the military, and you just overdo it just to feel like you're doing something.
Marching up the street to come to the house, and I remember running to my son's room, waking them up and telling them, the feds are here, the feds are here, get up. And we're talking about children that are not accustomed to this upbringing. They're not. They were sheltered. We put our children in a bubble because we didn't want this cartel to affect them in any way. We didn't want them to have to ever go through any of this.
They went through it. And it wasn't the cartel that did it. It was the U.S. government that came through and bullied your children.
I ran down the stairs and I opened the door. I didn't want them to break it. And I just right away put my hands up and put my hands behind my back. And I think, I'm okay, I'm fine. You could take me now. And it wasn't until they walked into my house and they had AR-15s to my children.
That's crazy.
And they cuffed my son, and he's a minor. At that point, it's like, as a mother, I think you just go into survival mode. And I feel like
you've been there before.
I don't remember. I kind of blacked out. What happened.
You know, the SWAT team came for Valerie, and she fought them. They dislocated her shoulder, they mistreated her.
You know, I just wanted them to not cuff my son because he doesn't know this life. He has no clue what this life consists of.
When the feds came, right, I had to spend 2 days in jail. And I didn't even care about anything, but I just didn't want to be with people. I was so scared. So I asked
the CO there, and I asked him if he can put me in a room by myself because of the fear that I have just always lingering in my head. So they put me in a room by myself. I was just like watching everybody from a little window. This is so scary. Like, never can I ever like want to be in a position where I'm with other people that know who my family is.
I remember, Peter telling me through the years how he felt in like a prison cell, and I was just like looking around like, I can't believe it's me. And then I took his advice, and I remember like things he would tell me. I did clean like the toilet seat, the sink. And then I saved like a little bit of my food. Just because.
Those are the lessons he taught her. Save a little bit of food, clean up your area.
I listened to, everything that he went through with all my heart. Everything that we would talk about on our weekends, or, just try to be more than a wife, be his friend, and just hear him, what it was like for him to be there. I just like grasped onto little things that he would tell me that he did. And it was just an ugly time. I got sick from drinking the water. The water was terrible. And I was just like thinking to myself, like, I was so worried about the kids.
The reason why we chose to not tell our children who their dad was because we wanted to shelter them. And we didn't want them to go through this. Because this is the same exact thing that Peter and Jay went through when they were kids. And the whole reason why they felt like they wanted to like end this, and they wanted to like end this cycle, and they didn't want their children to go through anything that they ever went through. And it's kind of like, why did we do this? Like, look what we did to our kids.
And those cops, they don't have no regard. They don't care how they scarred your children. They blame you. They say, nah, this was your fault. You got them into this life of crime, right? Until one of those guys gets popped off for some filthy shit that they did. Now they want everybody to take them into consideration. It's plain as day. After 12 years that the guy served, after all the testimony, after all of the cooperation, after all the snitching, after all the ratting, after all the giving of information, after all the dangerous 8 months in Mexico, the 8 months sitting at a desk here, giving them information, all of that, the U.S. government did not have the smallest ounce of regard or gratitude or anything from the Flores twins. They just attacked them from day one, all the way to the end. Their goodwill ended once they were separated. The only goodwill they got was that they were put together at the beginning. But once they were separated, that was it. And here we are in 2023 going into 2024. And that family's still a target of the United States government as well as the cartel. The United States government been on the Flores family's ass, and it doesn't seem like they're trying to let up. It's a dirty thing to run up in people's houses with ARs and lock up kids and stuff like that. Yes, they're alive. They weren't murdered in the midst of the cartel split. Yes, it's been 20 years since this whole saga started. It hasn't ended yet. They're alive, but a lot of suffering that they've gone through. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things backfired for them, and they didn't get no help. They didn't get no grace from the United States government. That's for sure. And I'm sure some of you think they don't deserve it. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure some of you think that Chapo deserves it, which is weird. Some of y'all think Maya deserves it. We pick and choose as humans. We pick and choose who we feel like deserves grace. You know what I mean? I tell you who did deserve grace: the children. They have nothing to do with none of it. They are a product of the decisions of their fathers and mothers. Last week we spoke to the kids. We heard from the kids, and they told us their struggles with the situation. They told us their struggles with the life. They told us, how it felt to have their father back. the drawbacks of that and the advantages. And you know what? They just came off as grateful children. They came off as grateful children that were happy to have what they have because they know that it could all have been taken away from them. They still going through the hardships now, but they going through it. And again, they got the nerve to sit down and talk to Charlie Webster. So that's dope. Let's get it.
Sometimes doing the right thing comes at a cost.
Every time.
Be careful who you fall in love with.
I know all too well the struggle that comes with choosing a different life. For me, it was music that allowed me to get out of the life and write a new destiny for myself. For Pedro and Margarito Flores Jr., the Flores twins, it's been a long journey since they were sat in the backseat of their father's car at 7 years old, loaded with drugs, as it was moved across the Mexican border. That's what started it all. Without even knowing, they were put on a path that they've spent the last 14 years trying to leave, to change the legacy of the Flores name.
Think about that. Little did them 7-year-olds know what their life would be. They didn't know what they was getting into then. But just think about that. You don't really look forward at that age, but you can look back in retrospect and say, wow, what a road.
Billions of dollars and thousands of decisions over decades have brought the Flores family to where they are today.
The brothers served their time, but as far as the government is concerned, the Flores family haven't satisfied their debt to...
Of course not. We said that last week. They were going to keep squeezing them and squeezing and squeezing.
...to society.
Part of the reason why I wanted to share the story. These decisions we make, no matter how they are, or whatever we try to fix, it's coming at a cost. To this day, we're still trying to make things right. We're still trying to correct our wrongs, and you know, we might get something right on one end and fail on somewhere else. As men, I've told Val this plenty of times. The man that I was that I promised her that we were gonna have a different life. That I promised her that I was not gonna put her in harm's way like her past relationships. And I failed at that by far. I always hold myself responsible because I think that's what you do as a leader, as a head of your house or the man that I am. I think I hold myself responsible for leaving my family, get to this point. You know, my children, I failed them.
That sounds like accountability to me. He not putting it off on nothing else. He ain't blaming his daddy. He ain't blaming the game. I could have done what I had to do to make things different, and I did it.
After the wives were initially arrested and let go after 2 days in 2021, a case started to be built by the government against Val and Viv. Remember, Val helped the government as part of Jay and Pete's cooperation and turned over $4 million to the feds from the twins' drug activity back in 2010. As part of the twins' case, the government did a forensic investigation into their financials and couldn't find any further money that was out on the streets. But it turns out there was more money owed to the twins from drug debts that the wives and Armando, the twins' older brother, collected and hid from the government. The government claimed they didn't know about this money until they received a tip-off from someone very close to the family.
That's foul. So that money was gone, out of there. Until a little birdie told a bigger birdie, and then it turned into, damn, that's wild. The government didn't know until somebody gave it to them. That's the crux right there. The government didn't know about that bread until somebody gave it to them. That's foul as shit.
Until they received a tip-off from someone very close to the family.
Jerome Finnegan is the uncle of Vivi's brother-in-law. Jerome Finnegan was one of the corrupt Chicago police officers that got picked up on a sting back in 2006. And part of that arrest was Vivi's ex-fiance, Keith Herrera, and Jerome, and other police officers.
Police officers Keith Herrera and Jerome Finnegan were partners on the force together and known as two of the dirtiest cops in Chicago. The two of them topped the Chicago Police Department's misconduct complaints list. In the 5 years between 2001 and 2006, Keith amassed 53 citizen complaints, Jerome 52. Keith and Jerome were closely linked to Viv, Before Viv got together with Pete, she was actually engaged to Keith. And Viv's sister, Bianca, ended up marrying Jerome's nephew. In 2006, Keith, Jerome, and other police officers were arrested for making unlawful arrests and searches, gathering false evidence, and stealing money from drug dealers. In one instance, during an unlawful traffic stop, they took the person's house keys, broke into their house, and took $500,000 in cash.
What y'all gotta understand is it happens all the time. All the time. There's a cop that comes and investigates something somewhere and sees something and comes back later, and it just be happening like that.
$500,000 in cash.
Well, when Keith flipped, he, flipped with the feds to cooperate against his fellow officers. Jerome Finnegan wanted.
That's a different kind of pig-rat hybrid right there. You know what I'm saying? Because you chose you chose to be the cowboy, the good guy, right? You're the cop. But then you chose to go against that and be a dirty cop. And then you chose to go against your dirty cops. Like, that's a rat pig hybrid right there.
Keith turned against Jerome and the other officers and worked with the police to bring them down. Jerome found out and plotted to kill his former partner Keith for cooperating, but the feds foiled the murder for hire plot, and Jerome was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Keith's cooperation meant he was only sentenced to 2 months.
Okay, so he got arrested in 2006, and he's in the MCC, right, Metropolitan Correctional Center in Chicago, the federal holdover, right, for federal inmates, and he's in the SHU. He's in protective custody. He's the orderly at that time when me and my brother come in. So orderly means he cleans up, he helps out, the correctional officers. If you need something, you ask the orderly, like. So he's, sweeps, mops, cleans up, might pass the food trays or whatever the case is.
Jerome was the orderly at MCC Chicago when Pete and Jay first went to prison and were in the SHU there. They didn't know who Jerome was.
As the weeks went by, he'll stop by, hey, I had no idea that he was related to Vivi's, related through marriage to Vivi's family. I know who he is from the street, I know of him, but P, while we're in the SHU, they start talking and he's like, hey, I know you. And they're like, yeah, I know, they know that, he knows that Viviana's Peter's wife. So they start making small talk, right? P, right away befriends him, and moving forward, I guess his nephew by chance was a person that my older brother had helped bring back the money from Washington, D.C. And the nephews go visit his uncle, and the uncle convinces him, Jerome, to bring the information to the feds so that he could get a lighter sentence. So that's how the feds found out.
Damn!
Jerome was desperate to get out of prison. He would do anything he could to get information out of inmates that he could use as a bargaining tool to help him get his sentence reduced. That's why he befriended Pete. Jerome found out that there was money hidden from the twins' drug debts. Jerome's nephew, the one married to Viv's sister Bianca, helped Armando, Jay and Pete's older brother, to collect the $4 million from DC that Val turned over to the government. But Jerome knew there was more. He pushed his nephew to give that information to the feds. The tip-off from Jerome is what the government used to arrest Val and Viv.
Crazy.
Jerome didn't end up getting any time off his sentence.
Just a rat for free. Just a free little piglet.
Armando was also arrested for his part in the collection of the money. If you remember when 50 and I were recording season 1, the Flores family found out that Armando had decided to cooperate with the government after his arrest. Armando confessed that there was more money and provided evidence that ultimately implicated the wives. Armando was given an ultimatum by the government to either serve serious time and face deportation. If you recall, J&P got him a US visa as part of their deal to cooperate, or get favourable terms in exchange for information on the wives.
Jay and Peter's older brother, he's like my best friend. And I mean, I love him unconditionally, and I worry about his immigration status and him being deported.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, I'm for my brother to be put in the best scenario possible, you know? For himself, like, and his family, you know? Just can't wait to put this behind us.
And just get through it as a family like we've always done.
The amount of resources it takes to do something like this. I wonder why the streets are flooded with heroin and cocaine and even more dangerous stuff now. Fentanyl and all kinds of shit that will kill you because, you know, that's what I'd be focused on. Every officer has the decision to, you know, where they put their time and resources at. And I can't agree that this was the best way to do that, but that's just my opinion, you know?
Right, they sitting there, they went off a tip. They went off a tip from a whole piglet clan that trickled down to them. And they decided to spend taxpayer dollars on chasing down these two mothers that just been raising their shorty for 12 and a half years on their own. Were they spending money? Yes. It sounds like there might have been a whole family deal here. I'm wondering if the twins and the wives knew what was coming down the pipe through Armando, and they made a deal like, bro, they're going to put me here, and deport me, or I have to give them something. And as a family, they made the decision maybe to, all right, tell them this, that, the other, and me. Because the ladies, they're going to jail. One of them is already there, and the other one's going in. And not that they would be arguing and screaming. If he did rat them out and never said nothing about it, and it was just a surprise to them, then, you know, of course, they're not going to flip out on the podcast. We're not going to hear that. But I just wonder if they all knew, if they didn't know.
Meanwhile, all the other people just keep doing what I was doing, you know? Who knows, the next P&J is probably out there right now, building his empire right under his nose.
Oh, you got a point. You got a point. While the feds is running around chasing Val and Vivi, it's another Peter and Jay somewhere bringing in, fictional bath bombs. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say those two words separately, let alone together on YouTube, but it is what it is.
The first thing that a prosecutor will generally tell a cooperator or potential cooperator is that cooperation is an all or nothing proposition.
That's Michael Ferrara, the assistant US attorney that worked J&P's case against El Chapo from the very beginning. He worked alongside Thomas Shakeshaft and Adam Fells.
And the government needs that to be true. When they say it, they absolutely mean it. And so the reason for a prosecution like that is that it's a betrayal of trust at some level, that they were given a second chance, they were given a clean slate, and decided to use drug proceeds for material things in a way that was very avoidable.
According to the government, in addition to the $4 million from DC that Val turned over to them, there was another $2.3 million that they never told anyone about. One day, a U-Haul truck arrived at the twins' older brother Armando's house in Austin, Texas. The truck was piled high with second-hand furniture. Hidden inside the furniture was stacks of cash, $2.3 million worth. Armando stored the money under his porch and sat on it for 4 years until 2015, when he started dispersing it to the wives in increments on average of $9,000 via US Priority Mail and UPS packages, as well as through gift cards. He would then pay himself a fee out of each delivery. The government accused the wives of living a lavish lifestyle, using the money to pay for luxury cars, designer purses, a Peloton exercise bike, as well as private school for their children, living costs like rent, and over $99,000 on vacations.
Not a Peloton. A Peloton? For real? Damn. They call that lavish, like a Peloton, some private school. Like, they was buying Bentleys and mansions and shit. It's a different story than buying a Peloton and a semester of private school.
The government clearly made the decision that that couldn't be tolerated, that they needed to send a message to other cooperators, to just society as a whole, that if you join the government's team, that has to have meaning from sort of beginning to end. You can't be a cooperator and hiding drug proceeds and living off of drug proceeds at the same time.
I feel that in Jay and Peter's sentencing memorandum, they spun it to the court like we basically benefited because we were given immunity. But fast forward 10 years, they come indict us. It's like they're trying to change the narrative. And I feel like the U.S. Attorney's Office today is very different than what it was back in 2008. And I feel that they didn't have a certain rule book to go by. And because this case was so big for Jay and Peter, I feel like there were mistakes made because it's never been done before on both sides. I don't fault anyone. I just feel like the U.S. Attorney's Office at the time, they didn't have the right guidance. We were given, certain benefits. I feel that today, those things that we were promised, that obviously they're frowned upon, but at the same time, you can't punish our family because that's something that somebody that was a representative of the government, which is Thomas Shakeshaft, he actually promised us these certain things when it comes to immunity or when it comes to us being able to keep a portion of the money. So if we were given these promises and we were led to believe that this was going to be embedded in their cooperation, then how is it when you fast forward 10 years, they're able to charge us on the things that we were supposed to be promised and we were given? On March 24th, 2011, the day I proffered, I spoke to Thomas Shakeshaft, which is the U.S. attorney that was in charge. He basically told me not to worry, I'm not going to be charged. I took that as reassurance that they would never prosecute me.
That was a dude talking in the halls. If it ain't on paper, they didn't say nothing. Sometimes when it is on paper, they still be like, I didn't say nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. For all of the guarantees and all of the concerns they had that they brought to this Shake Shaft's, attention, they got sold up the river.
At my proffer meeting was Thomas Shakeshaft, Michael Ferrara, and DEA agents that were involved in the case. Thomas Shakeshaft, he told Jay and Peter at a proffer session that he didn't want to wipe them out of their money. So these things are being said to our husbands. These things are being said to us. These things are not, they're not seizing certain things. Even though I'm saying that we paid for all of this stuff with drug proceeds from our husband's business, it's like they're allowing us to keep them. And so I don't understand how you can turn around and a decade later come back and then charge us.
The wives filed a motion to dismiss their charges.
That's it. It's a gotcha. That's what they do, man. It's a gotcha. Or somebody gonna turn around and hear what Shake Shaft is saying over his shoulder. That's a world of rattage over there, man. You know what I'm saying? They're like, wait a minute, hey man, this dude's over here treating these people with all kind of respect. A new prosecutor comes on, and that's the end of your reassurances right there. They're out the door.
In 2022, claiming that the twins' deal provided them with immunity from charges related to the twins' crimes. The wives argued that the government allowed them to keep the money, and that in a proffer session with US Assistant Attorney Thomas Shakeshaft, Val had tried to make the government aware there was extra money out there. But they didn't want to hear about it.
See there?
All they were focused on was getting El Chapo behind bars. A pre-trial hearing was...
They didn't want to hear about the bread. They didn't want to hear about it. I know it's a fake TV show, Snowfall, ripped and stolen from the real Rick Ross's life. But Franklin had, I don't know, 70 million. But Franklin was in a situation that was, very out in the open, and the government wanted to distance itself as much as possible from it. And they brought that 70 million, so they said, we don't want to deal with that. We don't have nothing to do with that. We don't talk about that. I picture that when I hear this. Listen, we got another 5 mil, 2 mil, 3 mil, whatever it is. Listen, do you have a tape with Chapo's voice on it? Let's talk about that right now. Then you get all these promises from the shake weight, Mr. Shake Shaft, and then none of that stuff happens. Here we are going into 2024, and these people still dealing with this situation.
Was held for Judge Matthew Kennelly to examine the evidence. The wives had planned to have U.S. Assistant Attorney Thomas Shakeshaft testify. But 1 week before the hearing, on July the 19th, Shakeshaft died from chronic health problems and alcoholism.
Oh!
His alcoholism was blamed, in part, on the stress of the Flores case.
He died with his reassurances. Gone. Took the launch codes with him. Was he an alcoholic because of the Flores trial, or was he an alcoholic that was coming and telling them some drunk-ass reassurances?
A week before the hearing, on July the 19th, Shakeshaft died from chronic health problems and alcoholism. His alcoholism was blamed, in part, on the stress of the Flores case.
Wow.
Michael Ferrara was called by the government to be a witness. Here's what he had to say to us about the alleged immunity deal.
The way that it was presented in that defense is effectively that they were immunized forevermore, that they could do whatever they wanted in the future, which I don't know if that's a thing, period, in law enforcement, but it certainly wasn't here. And immunity like that can only come in writing, and it can only come from the U.S. attorney. And I'm positive that no immunity was issued by any U.S. attorney in Chicago. The wives were entitled to take, just blatant drug proceeds and do whatever they want with them.
Yeah, but there's no such thing as lifetime immunity. You know what I'm saying? That's why they tell you it's an all or nothing deal. You got to give them everything at one time. That's what makes me question. We always throwing bodies on them. My question is, if they had the opportunity to proffer those bodies and tell them, hey, these bodies exist, and get them bodies off their jacket, why wouldn't they do that? When they had the opportunity to do that, when they were cooperating against the biggest drug lord to the known world, the boogeyman. You know what I'm saying? So why wouldn't they use that opportunity? Because if they would have came back and found those bodies after the fact, they slamming them on their head. You can't get immunity in 2008 for something, and that immunity lasts, and in 2009 you smoke somebody and you still claiming immunity. That immunity doesn't work like that. You know what I'm saying? Which is what they're saying here, future immunity. Yeah, that it doesn't even make sense that they're saying there's no such thing.
The other comment I can make is that the whole thing is very unnecessary and unfortunate for their families. And I truly do believe that Pete and Jay cooperated to give their families a better life, and they had the opportunity to do that. And so to allow sort of like material things like...
If they told them about this money and they had this deal with the Shake Shaft, then that would say they told them about the money then. So if the government told them, go ahead and use that money, and they're still using that money 10 years later, they're under the impression they're not committing a crime. Because if I told you that bread is there and you told me we're not dealing with that bread right now, then at the end of this conversation, I still got a duffel bag full of bread. The laundering part I don't see either, because I didn't hear about them filtering that money through nothing. You know what I'm saying? They told them, hey, I got this bread in this duffel bag. We don't want to deal with that money. So they kept the money. They say, do what you got to do with that money. They just kept going back to the duffel bag and getting money. They didn't take the duffel bag of money and build a Starbucks and launder money through there. I ain't hear that part either. I hear this guy sympathizing for their family. But he's like, oh, if there was a deal, it would have been in writing. And it would have had to go through this person, that person. The government going to have to bless it with paper. If they tell me I got future immunity and I get loose at a bar a year from now and smoke something, they're just going to blow that off? That don't even sound like a thing. I don't see... I do and I don't. I don't see the government starving you out while you're helping them and you're working for them and you're doing something for them that they need. But then again, we've seen that they hang them out to dry. They didn't even help them with the investigation. So you never know what you're going to get. It's just, either way, it ain't never going to benefit you. I'm sure that the CIA, I'm sure that the feds, they let dudes still get money that are confidential informants for them. These dudes, that's the only way they're going to get information is by being out there and doing it. So miss me with all the, we're holier than thou and you can't make no money. Nah, they're coming to get their envelopes too, I'm sure. They were collecting on behalf of the government. That's a fact. They sent Val to do that. And then if she's collecting, then there's a certain amount of money that they're like, we're not dealing with that right now. They have to stash that money. Where are they going to put it? They got to hide that bread. Not from necessarily from the feds, but from the wolves. I don't know.
Money, private schools, going on trips, the kind of things that they appear to have spent their money on. All of that is just stupid, in my opinion. I mean, to risk your freedom, risk the safety of your families over things like that, it's just sad. It's a sad thing for their families. It's just a really unfortunate thing that those kids were deprived.
Now, if the government didn't tell you nothing, they told you run that money, stop hiding money, don't hide money on us. If they told you that, and you was like, well, I got no money, and you was still running around wearing this, doing that, I absolutely agree with them. That was some stupid shit. We go back to square one. It wasn't just like the guys was helping them. They even had Val in there proffering. You know what I'm saying? They was on the clock for these fools. If they had those conversations and those conversations led to them saying, yeah, just keep a living for yourself, cool. But if y'all said y'all gave them all the money and then you was just blowing that shit in their face, well, then you had what was coming to you.
Deprived of being around their dads for so long, and now for however long they're going to be deprived of being around their mothers in a meaningful way, all for something that was 100% avoidable if they just would have, sort of kept their heads down, drove a used minivan and those kind of things. The flip side to that, though, is, in comparison to, again, like 2 tons a month of cocaine coming into Chicago and Chapo being prosecuted and all that, you're talking about a much smaller sum of money. And whether it sent the right message to use government resources like that to go after people who cooperated in a way that did a lot of good and had a lot of benefit to DOJ. So I think reasonable minds could differ on that, and whether it sends a strong enough message of what should happen that it's worth the potential downside.
According to the wives and their lawyers, it was the government that broke its promise to the Flores family. From the very beginning, the Twins Corporation and Pete's eventual testimony in court against El Chapo was done with the understanding that the rest of the family would be kept out of it. When questioned during the El Chapo trial, Pete testified that his wife, Viv, had been given immunity as part of his corporation deal. The point was made.
I believe I watched it the other day. I took a look and I skimmed through the video of his testimony, and he absolutely said that his wife was given immunity. Nobody contested that in court. Nobody stopped them and said, nah, your wife ain't got no immunity. And that's a court document on the record, so shouldn't that show that his wife had immunity?
Had been given immunity as part of his corporation deal. The point was made by Val and Viv's defense team that Pete spent 18 months being prepped by the government to take the stand against El Chapo, and at no point, including under oath in court, was there ever any challenge to the notion that the wives had immunity. The wives argue that the government knew that there was money they were using to live off, and that it was used to pay for their kids' education and their own living expenses. As single mothers, they had to move their families across the country every time Jay and Pete were transferred. Viv had to move 16 times due to viable threats on her life. The motion to dismiss the charges was denied. They each had a choice to take their case to trial, but they were advised that the negative public perception would make a trial difficult. Instead, they each pled guilty to money laundering conspiracy.
the cop being so confident on his side of the good old boys being right and saying, oh, it would have to been on paperwork and they would have, it would have gone through people and nobody would ever have told them to just spend money frivolously however they wanted. I think that's all stupid. He could be that confident, but what does he say when you tell him? Why didn't Charlie Webster ask him? Then why did Pete say she had immunity and nobody said nothing about it? Not the prosecution, nobody. Nobody said nothing about it.
Viv was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison and ordered to pay $504,858 in forfeiture.
Damn!
She went to prison on the 19th of October, 2023.
It's definitely scary because, Peter is a very, his presence he's like the rock of our family. I felt like I took his place when he had to leave. I took over and I had to be mom and dad and everything.
This is what kills me.
And I think that it's really, really definitely hard. I wasn't built for this. Definitely wasn't built for this, but a strong woman.
Evidently you built for it. You ain't broke yet. If this stretch don't break you, then you was definitely built for it.
A strong woman. And by far I know I am. I think that my kids would definitely be very, this is a scar that probably would never, ever, ever, will be able to repair. We sit here and, we've been here with you, Charlie, for so many days. And, we talk about the kids and how we wanted to change their lives. And I feel like we're right back exactly where we never wanted to be.
Val received the same sentence as Viv, 3.5 years in prison, plus a $504,858 forfeiture.
But y'all took all the money. Y'all took all the money. Well, I'm gonna give you $500,000 from y'all took all the money. Y'all told me I can't have no bread. Imagine if they'd have took the bread and said, I'm gonna start flipping this bread somehow and start a business. Let's say they started a successful real estate business in the time that it took for them to, when the government told them, hey, go ahead, do what you got to do with that money. And they started flipping it and made a $10-15 million. Now they're like, hey, give me $500,000. They want $500,000 from each one of them. Took all the bread. Come on, man. Y'all petty.
3.5 years in prison, plus a $504,858 forfeiture.
Where you want me to get that
She
bread?
goes to prison on January the 10th, 2024.
I felt like I was being targeted.
Facts. I'm sure.
I felt like they wanted to make an example out of me.
Absolutely.
Which is hurtful. But after understanding, the government, the prosecutor,
You might remember back in season 1 that Val has been to prison before. As a teenager, she fell in with the wrong crowd and was used as a drug mule. Before Jay, she was married to notorious Latin Kings boss Rudy Cato Rankel.
All right, y'all, we're going to stop it right there. Right, this marathon's been going for almost 8 hours. Well, for about 8 hours. And we're going to move on to the fight stream. And this will go up, the remainder of this will go up after the fight stream tonight. So I am going to be getting us out of here. I appreciate y'all. Hit that like button if you have yet to do so. Salutes to all the donators. Thank you to everybody that checked out the marathon. If y'all like these marathons, y'all let us know in the comments, and we'll keep them coming. All right? We're going to switch over to the fight stream and go from there, all right? Salutes to the chat. I appreciate y'all, and I will see y'all on the other side. I will holla. Peace.